Lou has provided us with a project at hand. What deliverables you can get $1,000 retain. Just want to recap some points. Almost to them anyway, but it affects us all. Because we're all paying for the utilities that the whole harmless agreement that related to road turnover. The whole harmless agreement related to the road turnover signed 2017. Clause 16 provides a broad and unlimited indemnity to the county that the district will pay for the moving and removing of water and sewer lines and associated utilities for these and any other road project in the future. The district entered into this agreement knowing of Lee County's intention to widen Gateway Boulevard at Stony Brook, where it narrows to a single lane. We knew about that. I obtained a 10 to 15-year time frame from David Loveland on that project before I helped the board to get those 47 Royal Palms relocated rather than chopping them down, because widen the road and then we have those trees. That was important, but the district didn't know at the time of the county's plans to build two roundabouts. Cost to the Gateway taxpayer for these two roundabouts, and I thank Laura and Chelsea for this number, is $1.8 million. That's what it's costing us as Gateway taxpayers to shift our utilities for their project unilaterally, or a joint project. May the 21st, 2020, the district board voted 5-0, and Margaret, being the chair at the time, sent a letter to the commissioners requesting traffic lights at Griffin, citing that the 1.8 million cost is an acceptable burden. They didn't keep that, built the roundabout. Statute 72506 imposes a commercially reasonable money limit on indemnities construction contracts. I've discussed it with Lou. And part of his scope is to review case law, statutory law to limit the district liability. Last point. It will take Lou 2 to 3 weeks to work, and in his opinion, although he's not prepared to put it in writing, is that we have a good start at getting a declaratory judgment that could make clause 6 void and non-enforceable. He's run a conflicts check, he's already worked with us, has been he's a good guy. Ed and I have worked with him in getting a Comcast contract voided, and still will be difficult. I would suggest that you invite him to present his findings to a few weeks, have him standing here, and give him chance to their options. What do you think?
We're gonna wrap it up. Yeah.
And that's I urge you.
Thank you, Rod. Anybody has any questions?
So, you're in favor of 12B, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
thank you.
I absolutely, $5,000 to get 1.8 million potentially is a no.
Thank you.
Well, the microphones are working fine internally.
Troubleshoot. Okay, so let's just take a minute or two. Talk loud, please.
What is our, these mics not working?
All right, I need your help. I'm gonna crawl in there. All right, just talk loud. Okay, let me get, okay, hang on, let me get switched over here. It did automatically, okay. Looks like it's working, the microphone on now. I don't think so. Who's our next? Kathy, Clarity, it says budget. Kathy. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Hi, I have a couple, Kathy Flaherty from Stony Brook. I have a couple of questions about the budget. I would like to know how you got $800.67 for Stony Brook. When I figured it out, it came to $740.74. I would like to know if you could itemize that for me so I could see how you got that amount of money. And that includes adding the $127. That was my first question. My next question is, I think it's a little high to have a 7.63% increase on salaries. I mean, I know that I never had a 7.63 increase in salary, and I'm on a fixed income and I don't get a 7.63 in anything increase. So I think that's a little bit high. Usually it's around 3%. I would think that would be it. Also, we have 3 pool attendants plus Tim, and yet the clock doesn't work at the pool. Okay, so thought I'd mention that. And then I thought that the landscaping contract for the Stony Brook was not supposed to be in here, and it still is in here, and I was just wondering why that is. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So do you want to go ahead and you want to answer the question regarding the financials, the differences you're talking about?
When we get that during the.
Yeah.
budget
Yeah,
conversation,
okay,
I think we should.
We'll address that at a
Yeah.
time. And then regarding to the pool, I guess we'll go ahead and put in a ticket for the clock to be replaced. And then regarding the landscaping, we're waiting on the Stony Brook board to sign the agreement, the necessary documents that they haven't signed, but they're working on it. But once that's taken care of it, then it will be adjusted accordingly.
Okay,
All right.
thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
You.
I have one more, Veronica Hayes from Stony Brook. It just says last meeting park proposals.
Okay, Veronica Hayes from Stony Brook. This is only like my second time coming up here, or third time at one of your meetings, so bear with me, please. And hopefully I want to talk about the park proposals that were proposed by Maria, I think it was. And I wanted to know if that was a wish list or if actions are going to be taken to secure the items that she listed. After that meeting, I immediately went down to the dog park and met with an owner. He had 2 large dogs. He came out, he says he loves the dog park. It looked in great shape. He has water, he says it's the best thing going. And then he said he talks to other people that come there and they pay like an annual fee, I guess. He says they also agree it's a bargain in this vicinity for being the best park here. My other take would be on, they talked about the playground and moving the playground all the way back to the dog park. No way I would want my child to be moved all the way back there. Visually, I would want to be able to see them, and I don't think that's a good idea. I think it would be a hideaway for teenagers even to go back there.
That's not part of it.
Yeah, let it just.
That was on her list. Okay, when you go for these changes, do you go for a vote, each one of you? And I know you probably represent different associations. Does your association put into the whole changing of anything that we change equally? And if not, do you abstain from that vote? That's my questions.
Okay, so I will take some. So regarding Maria is actually the vice chair of the Parks and Recs committee. So she was not representing herself, but the committee as a whole, because the chair was not able to attend. The information that was provided to Maria, to us, it was after they met with the dog park members, because they have about 200 members, so they have an informal group that gave her the feedback. So that feedback that she presented, it came directly from those 200 members or so that opted to sign out. Everything on that list, from bocce ball to the soccer item, it was all from all the 7 members going out there, their emails or feedback, because they had meetings for the last 6 months or so. So, comments from residents, so they gather all that and they provided that to the board. And they were able to prioritize what they thought was best, given the feedback that they received. So that's what that come from. Regarding the dog park, that was also initiated by the Parks and Recs Committee, because we're having an issue with parking on the soccer drive. And we were in the process of replacing the sod. So instead of doing that, removing the park to the fun park would not have to need to do any sod, and will alleviate some of the issues with parking that we have now. Regarding to the playground at the dog park, I think there was definitely a misunderstanding, because they never presented such a thing as to be separate. At the fun park, there is currently, we do have a place structured there that it probably has 6 months or so of life on it. And that's that one that you need to temporarily there, or if it's, but there was never an input from the Parks Committee to put those two together. And I would speak on behalf of myself, and then the other board members can chime in. So we're not really representing any of HOAs. We're here representing every single resident of Gateway, including Pelican. So that's how I'm looking at it on my seat here. But I don't think we represent homeowners association, but I don't.
By law, we can't abstain. The only way we can abstain is if we have conflict. And just because Tony, what's the legalese on abstaining?
Well, it all depends if if they're nearest to your benefit or gain, or the benefit or gain of an individual by whom you are retained, or some other, if you're doing business with any, there are a number of bases for a voting conflict. Absent there being a basis in the statute, you must vote on that.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
No problem. What else do we have?
No more.
Nothing
I do
online?
not have anything else in writing, there's nothing in the chats, no emails or faxes or anything that you had not already seen.
All right, perfect.
And just really quick, the purpose for our committees is to have an additional group of individuals outside of board to obtain input from residents and to bring back recommendations to the board for consideration. Whatever committee does is not final, and the board's not required on any level to make movement on any recommendations or decisions by committee.
All right. So let's go ahead and local achievements and recognitions. Do we have anybody?
Yeah, just a couple. I don't think I mentioned it to you at the last meeting, but we did have some staff receive their AFO training, which is Aquatics Facility Operator training license for the pool. So that was a 2-day course and test. So we have, I think 3 or 4 additional staff that have that license. So we can operate the pool in a professional capacity. And then some sad news, we did get notice that one of our meter readers, Denise, has given notice and that she is leaving the district in a couple weeks for better opportunities. So she has been with the district for a little over a year and has been a great asset, but we wish her the best.
All right, thank you.
And I have one.
Carol?
Yeah, I was at the last President's Council meeting at Pelican Preserve, and one of the local presidents of the association was talking about over by one of the Weir projects. They were having a little difficulty, and so he was praising Elle for being out there, knowing exactly what she was talking about, handling the situation. And he couldn't sing her praises high enough.
Thank you.
I'll second that. I was there.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, yesterday, we had a mess up on Mahogany Run North. Isaac and utility crew were out there, and this is I guess a foreboding of things to come. Got a picture here I want to pass around. This is a meter pit that is in the location between two houses on the property line, like good old typical gateway is. And it's located where about a 36-inch oak used to be. Well,
Is that what
the oak, and I didn't know if Bill was coming or not today, because he was gonna bring in the evidence. But the issue is that that tree's been gone for 2 years. Those roots wrapped around, there you go. Thank you. I'm glad he brought the evidence. One of the roots had a hole about 2 inches deep. That was a mini Grand Canyon. You know how they say over the millions and millions of years the water made Grand Canyon? Well, the water coming out of a little 5/8 inch service line took a root, went down that deep, about that big in diameter. Ate that wood away with the pressure of that. But we have got a challenge in changing these meters, especially in old Gateway Greens, where those oak trees have been for years. I mean, the guy sat there for almost 3.5 hours, 93 degrees, and God only knows what the humidity was. And every time you tried to touch something, you'd find another leak because of the roots wrapping around these service laterals. They did one heck of a job. They did a heck of a job. So my praises to Isaac and the crew. I had a couple of people, why do you need 5 people out there to do that? I said, real simple. You needed 10 hands. You look at this, at one time, those guys, all 5 of them were laying on their belly, one of them holding something to keep this thing from breaking loose. And if it broke loose, our only choice was to go out and dig up the street. So it's a challenge that's going to face us in the future, but my praises to the guys yesterday. They did a heck of a job. Heck of a job.
Thank you, Ed. Okay. Okay. So advisory committees and items to report. Do you have anything? Okay. Approval of the minutes. So I need a motion.
I move to approve the May 16th and May 18th board meetings.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda items. District engineer.
Good afternoon, Stephen Agapi, Tetra Tech District Engineer. Today I just have our task authorization update. First up is the irrigation meter replacement. We're still scheduled for July 24th, or approximately their construction start. Irrigation pump station generator. Today we issued the NTP to the contractor Zabit for the generator installation. We're reviewing shop drawings currently. Irrigation enforcement improvements. Plans are to submit 90% plans to the district for review at the end of this month. Flowway weir adjustments. The contractor emailed us earlier this week and said they'd be wrapping everything up today, and they requested a walkthrough tomorrow. We're trying to schedule that for probably tomorrow afternoon or Monday, Tuesday of next week. Griffin utility relocation, just ongoing construction management out there. Aerator FPL assistance, we're wrapping up our deliverable to Gateway. Phase 2 year 2 lake bank restoration. Met Tower did not feel comfortable continuing with the lakes, so they did ask us to give them grace and hold off until November to continue until after the rainy season. Their plan is as soon as daily rains stop, they'll be able to move in, mobilize, and continue construction.
We did get the letter.
We did get a letter. They said they were going to honor their prices and hold that as is. So we have a contract with them. They were low bidder, and that's kind of where that project stands right now. We're closing out the remaining lakes that they did complete. We're waiting for them to give us the signal that they've completed all the punch list items, and then we'll review that and get those closed out. Gateway Storage Building, we did get our South Florida permit today. We have comments from Lee County we're working on. We're going to resubmit to Lee County, and we're planning to let for bid by the end of this month or early July.
Hey, can you just change the name of that? Just add like Gateway District on there or something that makes it more specific to,
Utilities.
yeah, utilities, yeah,
Okay.
utilities were built.
Of course, yeah. Gateway and admin building, we were supposed to be wrapping up 100% this week. And we'll be preparing bid documents, by mid-July. Phase 3, we'll just call it FY 24 Lake Bank Restoration. We're wrapping up 100% plans today, hopefully, maybe, tomorrow morning. Once we get those done, we'll send them out to permitting. We need to send them to SRF, June 26th. As part of that submittal, we need request for inclusion to get construction money. So I have our RFI here today for, just to bring for information and get board approval before Chelsea signs it. Our OPCC for the construction of these 6 lakes was 1.9 mil. The RFI is for approximately 2.5 with contingency. So just wanted to make you guys aware of that, and if the board doesn't have any issues with that, Chelsea can sign. And then once we get the facilities plan approved, we'll probably do a resolution, which we have done in the past, so that sound right, Tony?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
As of right now, this is not tying up any funds. This is just us making the request to SRF and for approval of the project.
And to ask them to give us money.
correct. And the same goes for the design request for inclusion. That amount is for 700,000 and change for the remaining 30-ish lakes. So that'll go also in at the end of this month.
I guess, Steve, do they need a resolution for the processing of the RFI?
So the previous resolution that I had read referenced specifically the approved facilities plan.
Yes.
That's not approved yet. It also referenced a SRF like project number, which we haven't been given yet. So I think at this time, I think if we just sign these and hold on to them, submit them when they're required, and then once we get that information from our SRF, we can do the resolution. But as part of the RFI submittal, that's not required, as far as I know.
I don't recall doing the resolutions for the RFI either, just once we actually go, once we get approved and they agree to give us money, then we would do the resolution to move forward with the application and everything.
So yeah, the key part was the facilities plan, which we had that notice hearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Timber Creek sheet flow analysis, we did complete our study and we provided a draft report to Gateway today. The results weren't as clear as everyone was hoping. I don't know if staff had a chance to review it or not, but I know you talked with Tim. He gave you kind of a little bit of a background. So I'll give you guys a brief synopsis of what we did and what we found through the study. So we had a hydraulic model from years ago. We started with that. That model did not include any of the topography for Timber Creek. So we had to build all that into the model. We did preconditions and then post-development based on their design plans that were found with South Florida. We also included the areas that are south of Daniels that anecdotally have flown north, even though it's supposed to not. So we included that into the model. We included the missing structures that were part of the Worthington Commerce project that weren't built. So we could turn those off and on. So when we ran the model based on the storm that resulted in the flooding, which was like less than 5 inches, we didn't get any flooding that we saw here. We did get some flooding when we ran the model out of 25-year storm. So the model is limited on what information we have. Like at the time, we only had the permitted plans for Timber Creek. That's what we have right now. So if something was different at the time, which I believe it is because when it was flooding, they made the news. We talked to South Florida and they said they had to go dig swales and make some additional improvements. So what might have been causing the flooding was maybe incomplete components on their end, but we didn't have that granular detail for our model. So we have their permitted plans, which we plugged into the model. And based on that, there was no resultant flooding that we could find, which obviously we know isn't the case because there is some flooding there. Now that they have made some changes to their system in Timber Creek, maybe some of that flooding has been alleviated. We won't know until we get some serious storms to see what happens to the system. One of the areas we do know that flooding is probably coming from is the wetland adjacent to the OAK property. So something that we can do in the future, depending on how the board wants to handle this, is look at additional conveyance down Soccer Drive to move that water that may be coming from that way into the interconnected lakes west of Soccer Drive. That could be an option that we can look at.
What about water coming from east of Daniels,
Yeah, so
from the airport?
we looked at that, and I mean, we plugged all of that information into the model, and that tailwater condition didn't result in any flooding on Soccer Drive. And there is a control structure that is missing, depending on what plans you look at, and turning that off and on didn't result in any significant changes in the conditions of the system.
So if we get, let's say, Dylan Washer this summer, we recalibrate the model?
Yeah, so our scope for that project was limited. You know, we didn't have the ability to just go out and collect every fine piece of detail we could. So, you know, depends on how far down that rabbit hole we want to go collect as much data as possible. But like I said, we were working off of permitted plans from Timber Creek. You know, how it was actually built is unknown. When we were doing the study, we did reach out to the engineer of record for Timber Creek, asked for information, and it got pushed back a little bit. I'm not saying they're bad engineers, but they kind of asked for permission from the developer to release that information to us. So that may be forthcoming, and that may help us refine the model a little bit. But we don't have that information at this time.
Well, in the Johnson plan, amended in 95, they predicted a CFS flow, I want to say 13,
Okay,
coming from that area south to Worthington.
south of Daniels,
From Timber Creek.
from Timber Creek. I think it's more than that.
Outside the area. I believe it was 30, it's either 13 or 16 CFS, one of the two.
Okay,
Was the number that actually came equal to or greater than that number, or do we know?
I don't know off the top of my head. I know we looked at their permitted discharge flow rate, and that we looked at that information. So
Because if you go back and look at the Johnson amended plan,
yeah,
1995, it's got an arrow and it defines it as offsite. There's like about 4 offsites, Tony, is that correct? One was over south of Pelican, down into Marblewood, that was south of you, Bridgetown. One coming in that way that was about 40 CFS, one coming from the north, can't remember what the other one was, and then Timber Creek.
I think it's much higher than 13, 15-ish. I think it's closer to 30 from what I remember seeing.
I'll check that, but I had 13 to 16 in my mind. But my question is it within that? Because if it's not, we got real issues.
Yeah,
Because our entire infrastructure is based on that model.
right.
And it said right in that silly model,
Yeah.
that thing was supposed to be recalibrated in 5 years. Well, I guess we're a multiple of 5, 8 times 5. We're checking that. That's serious.
What was the date of the engineering, Johnson's?
The original report that Johnson did was 88 or 89, and the amendment, I believe, was 95. And it's got a table that's a big fold out that shows with little arrows, water allowances that in the construction of the gateway flow system was to be taken into consideration of for design. Because I remember that Bridgetown was like 40 CFS. I got choked when I saw that, because that is a huge number. But anyway, I just want to make sure that they're in compliance with that 13 CFS. Because to my knowledge, Tony, are you aware of any amendment or further amendment of that document that would stipulate that we would have to take one drop beyond 13
No,
CFS?
I'm trying to go back and find some of that information for Steven, so I can send it to him now.
Yeah, I'll definitely double check to make sure.
Steven, you
Yeah,
mentioned,
At least if I heard you correctly, you mentioned possibly tying in the discharge to the equalization system over here. Is that hard piping and how?
There is piping on Soccer. The only thing is we can't just go in there and open the piping and, the water system's like a balloon. If you squeeze in one place, it's gonna bulge somewhere else. So it's a lot of water. Not saying it can't be done, but we'd have to look at the impacts downstream. We did that because there's impacts anytime you move water somewhere.
Or a cost of hard piping in addition to what we had.
It may,
That's what I've argued. on.
Yeah.
Now you're talking.
I mean, you may have to just upsize that piping to the lake that's on the corner here, in front of the park with Griffin and Soccer. That's essentially the main pipe there. I think it's 15.
inch to 30 inch. or
Yeah,
something like that.
right. It wouldn't be a massive cost, but it would be
It's a
construction project, yeah.
The real issue is that water is to go south.
It's supposed to, yes.
That's where it's supposed to go.
But,
That shouldn't impact this one iota. Not one
Yeah.
drop should be coming this way.
I agree.
And
is there a
Steve,
conveyance system to do that?
Well, it's
Yeah.
supposed to sheet
Is
flow.
gravity bringing it to us?
No, it's sheet flow.
It's supposed to sheet flow south and east underneath the FPL easement. The drainage pipes under that easement check out. We got elevations on those. So that's where it's supposed to go. But there is a wetland that their water does sheet flow into that's adjacent to OAK. So if it gets high enough, it would just go north and
you're
south.
talking about are you talking about right next to OAK, the county property?
I don't know who owns it.
It's county property.
Okay.
Yeah, just build a berm and force it.
Force it to go the other way.
Bathtub.
Yeah, this guy right here, there's wetland here.
That's, according to
Yeah,
LEPA, that's county property.
Yeah, so,
Berm's gonna be a lot cheaper than piping.
yeah.
So I think the point is this is multi-jurisdictional. There's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. Ultimately, what we originally feared was taking on additional flows from Timber Creek. We know that, but this plays into the bigger picture of we've got the Daniels Parkway apartments that are gonna be coming into play soon, that they're in permitting. And we've got some hopefully future potential plans for the grassy area at the back of the soccer field that with stormwater improvements may help. But we definitely have some homework to do still.
I do have one question, not necessarily towards this. Have we heard, were you here last year? Bristol Park, so there's a wetland that is also in Timber Creek, that they have a berm, so between Timber Creek and Bristol Park, and that either the berm is too low or something happened, water was going over the berm into the street on Hampton Park Court.
Okay.
Which is really near the same location, so if we're going to do this, I don't know if we're going to reach out to the HOA over there and see what happened, because I know it was severe, the last storm. The water was just literally just going over it, so it's a wetland, and I don't know if that wetland was full from whatever reason, it just went over the berm straight down.
Is that right here, Flavia?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I don't know if you recall that, I mean,
We can follow, this is news to me, but we can follow
Yeah.
up.
Steve, are you working with as-bills?
We're working with the permitted plans.
Well, that's good again.
No.
We're working, let's demand as-bills.
Yeah.
I have a question whether or not they built the damn thing right.
We know at the time of the flooding, they didn't have everything built. We know South Florida told us they had to go out and build stuff to alleviate the flooding. People's homes were flooding in Timber
Let's
Creek.
demand as-bills. Tony, what do we have to
Well, I
do
guess
to
the
do that?
question is, from the standpoint of Timber Creek, there's a CDD, correct?
Yes,
And so to the extent that that stormwater management system is being paid for, built by, or acquired by, those are public records, so we're not.
and to furnish it to South Florida.
Well, they give the engineer certificate, they're supposed to give the record drawing.
Let's put it this way, as a way over the work in
They're supposed to
Gateway
give it
25 years ago, we gave a drawing and we called it as-built with the fact that it was pulled out of somebody's backside.
Exactly,
Yeah.
the Pelican.
Yeah,
We'll make the request.
because if they don't, what we need to do is go over there and we take some shots of our own and prove that, because that scared me ever since day one. I begged when they did this to run a third of that water north and up through
83.
Magnolia Lakes. I begged. They wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. So at one drop, that water is heading west. Something's wrong. Because they categorically said everything was going to go down to the south to that intersection to where it crosses the FPL.
Yes, they were very adamant
They
about
were
that,
very adamant.
because it would have been so much easier for us doing that and what we did.
And we could have used that water up on that north end.
Well, I've got some things to check on, make sure, cross the Ts and dot the Is. We'll let staff give comments on our report and then we can finalize it and memorialize it.
One comment, one question, for the weir inspection. I hope it's tomorrow. Please include me if it's next week.
Not tomorrow.
Well,
I'll include you, I'll invite you as
I
a
will not be
courtesy.
here next week, so make sure that Doug Zanners is invited.
That's
I will key him in too. Why don't you want it tomorrow?
I've got a lot of stuff on my plate.
Oh, I got it, you know. We operated before Chelsea got here. We can handle it.
I won't be here.
Second, well, I'm gonna need you reading. Second, the proper drain
I'm ready to
problems
say
that we're having with Prado right now.
Yeah,
I didn't see it on here, and I guess I'd like to have it included until we get that resolved.
yeah, of course. So, the last time I was here, I prepared a memo which included some additional items. At the meeting, you had said you had just received some additional items.
Correct.
I wanted to include those items, so when you get a chance, send those items
Well,
to me.
I already sent it. I sent,
I was under the impression that there were more. If there's not, I believe I received one or two from you, but.
okay,
Wait.
I'll go back and double check.
Okay, I was pending those items before we sent it to Lenore.
Okay, I'll make sure you get the new parade with us, sorry.
Okay.
10-4.
Okay, thank you, that's all I asked.
All right, anybody else has any questions for, go ahead, Karen?
Yeah, the administrative building. So, the 100% design will be complete on 6/14. That was yesterday. Did you
Yeah.
do that?
Chelsea, did you get anything?
I did not.
Okay, so I'm gonna go and assume that it probably didn't, if Chelsea hasn't received it yet. Texted Eric, who's the project manager, when I walked in, and I didn't get a response yet, so.
So
It might have
let's just
slept
say that
for
by
a day
the
or
end
two.
of this month, by the end of June,
Yes, yeah.
it's 100% complete.
Yeah. It's
Give
okay.
me a relative timeline then. I mean,
You can't.
Got a bigger issue.
Everything's in
Can't get far.
permitting right now. And
well, doesn't it have to be 100% complete before you go to permit?
no,
No.
you want it to be at 90% because that last 10%, you incorporate all of the comments that are given from all of the different governmental entities.
Oh,
And then you get your 100% plans with permits. And that's what you attach as your bid.
So once we kind of permitting, then we have a better understanding of what timeline.
Yes,
okay.
which up in the air at this point, truthfully. So
So not this fall.
I'm hopeful that we have shovel in ground before the end of the calendar year.
That's all I had. Thanks.
All right. Okay, no other, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, admin, no, let's have okay.
So attached is the board requested a capital reserve study done for the enterprise fund. We had Ralph Kellis, who historically has done the rate studies for the enterprise fund. This is a draft version. You'll notice that there may be some highlighted sections in there. Staff is working on providing comments. The gentleman will be virtual at your next meeting to present, but I wanted to get the draft in front of you in case you had any comments. So that way I can relay those back to Brandon, who put together the report.
Do we need to get you our comments in advance of the next meeting
Please.
so that you can get them to him so we don't sit here and like, okay. Yeah.
Just send it to you or both of you.
You can send it to me.
Okay.
So this is for the water and sewer, right?
Yes, ma'am. And irrigation.
And you're good.
And irrigation.
The stuff covered by the water bill.
Got it. The enterprise fund.
Yes.
Okay.
Good, good. You're
I'm
good.
sorry, I'm sorry. So we're doing this because of that 8% increase, or we're doing this because we do it every year, or what?
The board chose to do this because we were doing the reserve study for the general fund
Right.
items. And it touched on the enterprise fund, but it didn't go as in depth as they do.
Okay.
This would be incorporated as a component to a rate study if we chose to do one sooner than later. So, and we'll touch on the 8%, I believe, the next item.
Next item.
Right.
Can we have him identify any capital assets and segregate them that are over 50-year service lives? So that we come back here, because I'm telling you right now, I've done this once or twice, and it gets scary, the numbers. We all know that if you have a sewer line that's 50-year to 75-year service life, when it reaches that, you're not going to tear it out of the ground and build a new one. You're going to repair it or maintain it. I just don't want to take and have the tail wagging the dog here, because right now, if you take the capital assets that have that life, both on the water, the irrigation, and the sewer, a huge majority of that money falls in that category.
Yeah.
Like,
And there's no sense for us to sit here and be trying to nitpick numbers that are just unreasonable, that make no sense, that we're not going to go out
Yeah.
and replace it.
Well, and I would even go so far as, I think it would be nice to have like some categorizations. So 50 plus or, 30 to 50. You know,
I
so
don't think it's even close to 50.
It's not that it's close to 50, it's that if it has a life of 50,
50 plus.
like the pipe is 50 to 75 years.
But I thought everything good was like a 30-year back like that.
It is.
Yeah.
But the last.
I'm older than that.
No, I think he's saying full lifespan.
Full life.
So two things, there's existing age and then there's lifespan.
But my point is that even if it had a 40 or a 50-year life and we were 40 right now, when we got to 50, we're not going to tear it out of the ground.
Right.
So why do we want to sit here and put money into it? Now, if they want to come back and say repair or replacement, I'll buy that. But that is a big difference from what we would have to pay.
Okay.
I'm gonna guess we probably have $40 million of assets in that utility account that have a life of over 50 years. When you bring in all the pipe, all the manholes, throw out the pump stations, those don't have that kind of a life. But why are we sitting here trying to solve a problem on those things that we are not going to tear out of the ground? So let's make it real. And I don't want to cold cock them and then have them come in and have it blended in with the report, and then we have to sit here and pull it out,
We can do
have it separated.
We can do that, and we'll do what Doug requested as well, try to categorize it by like years, long-term, midlife,
Yeah,
short.
like 3 categories, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so we would use this study to at some point in time, go out for a rate study to see if we're charging enough for our water and sewer.
This would be incorporated as part of a rate study, yes.
Okay, and do we do that on a regular basis?
Every 5 years?
The last one, it's about every 5 years,
3 to 5 years.
considering the hit that we're getting ready to take, I would recommend we do that sooner.
We've never done anything really to this extent.
Well, not only that, but we haven't taken action on the previous reserve study. So we can do studies all we want, but studies, yeah. But if we don't take action on it and we don't use it as the intent of the action, then it's just paper.
The rate study, this is a key component of determining that, what the rate should be,
Okay,
your reserve.
so I'm guessing that maybe next year or the year after, 25 for sure,
Yes,
you're going to do a rate study.
we need to.
We are going to do a
We need
rate
to
study.
do one of this.
Okay,
So again, this was just to get it in front of you. If you have comments, please send them my way. I will get them to the vendor, or the consultant, and, hopefully at your next meeting, he'll be here, either virtually or in person to give a full presentation. All right.
so do you need a motion of any sort?
No.
Okay,
More of an FYI.
Lee County proposed increase.
You all have heard, I've mentioned this a couple times. There is a hearing at the end of this month that the county is holding. That is discussing, the Board of County Commission will be reviewing and potentially implementing an 8% increase each year for the next 5 years. So 8% this year, 8% next, and so forth. If that does get approved, it would be effective July 1st, which would impact us. So, there's a couple options here. Leslie's put together this, agenda item for you. As you can see under the financial impact, oh, there she is. If we did nothing, we just left it as is, the impact to our budget would be about $13,000
For the fiscal year.
for the remainder of the fiscal year.
This is only 2 months.
Yes.
Yeah. The water system of Lee County essentially has 2 components. Water, well, maybe 3 if you count the wells. Treatment, the water, and the transportation of the water. I have no problem with them presenting to us a case of their costs of expanding either the wells or the water treatment plant, because that's just a pro rata deal. We are a percentage, and whatever that percentage is, we should be willing to pay for. Where I got a real problem is in the distribution system. Our access of water, or our water that comes to us from them, is a minor amount of their distribution system. I mean, a pittance of their system. So how much of this rate increase is distribution related that we're asking to subsidize the rest of this county? Because as far as I'm concerned, that's bull. We have a contract with those people, and I don't mind paying my share. I'll pay my share of the wells, I'll pay my share of the treatment, because that's calculable, very easy to calculate. But don't charge me for a distribution improvement project you've got up here in North Cape Coral. That's ridiculous. If you want to take and line out the pipe that serve us, 30-inch, 24-inch, I don't care what it is, that comes to us, and that's got an improvement necessary, I'll pay my share of that improvement. But all these other pipes in this Lee County utility, why are we paying for those?
Well, let's just say we're paying for the pipes and for the water.
You don't know.
It's all combined.
It's all
They
combined.
give us a detail.
What typically happens, and they too do rate studies. And it's my understanding that Lee County has not had a Lee County utility rate increase since about 2012. 11. They would normally, as part of a rate study, would break apart the different classes. So the bulk users, which is
Contract users.
the bulk user, which is us, and they have three bulk users, and we're one of them. The town of Fort Myers Beach is the second, and then there's a trailer park up in North Fort Myers, which is the third. Normally, that rate is different than your residential, your commercial. What they've done, because they're in a pinch for capital improvement and funding, is they hired Raftellus, and they're just doing this 8% across the board.
They got Raftellus also?
They got Raftellus also. So
Man,
if, again,
that's a little squeaky there. Somebody's got a major conflict of interest, but the issue is, I want Raftellus, so now you've given me a whole different questions to ask him next week. I'd rather, instead of have them on the phone, have them here. I want to look at them straight to face. Did you segregate out and separate our costs in the count, since you did the counties? We're
different guy, different, don't.
I don't think different guy might, you know what, it's the same company. The issue is that why are we accepting, and I don't have a problem with an 8%, you can pass that to Lee County till the cows come home. My deal is, my share is only 6 or 4%, that's all I want to see.
So I believe I've passed you guys, I emailed you a month or so ago, the study that they did, the report that they did, the executive.
You can't go through that, Chelsea, that is so bare, I've done this before. I could bury that stuff so deep you'd never find it.
So
All I want them to do is to enumerate, just simple questions. Enumerate the distribution system that is necessary in the Lee County utility system to supply water to Gateway.
well,
Nothing else, nothing more.
the decision lies at Board of County Commission. So anybody who is a Lee County resident that has Lee County water, they have a public hearing for you to attend. Now, we can go and represent the district and speak on what our 2 cents is. The Board of County Commission has the final say on if they choose to, or if they kick the can for the bulk purchase users down the road. But either way, there's a hearing in a couple weeks. This is under consideration. We're from a staff perspective, we're looking for your direction on, do we want to bite the bullet and eat the 13,000 for the remainder of the fiscal year? And maybe we prioritize a rate study to take on this impact? Do we do a pass through to the end user? Or do we go to our Board of County Commissioners and try to push them and suggest to them that they do a full rate study specifically for the 3 users that they have?
Well, the question you answered real quick, like, especially since theirs and ours are the same. We're married to the same guy. Did you do this separation analysis? If they didn't do that, that answers the question. They lumped us in, and I'm telling you right now, if they lumped us in, we're subsidizing the rest of the county.
And what I would say, Chelsea, too, it's probably worth just reaching out to Cecil, just making him aware of what our position is and the questions that we have. So either we have representation there during the meeting, or at least we have something in writing to Cecil that he can state what our position is.
Well,
I think you hit the nail on the head. If you're knowledgeable that it is 3, what is the problem of taking those 3 and separately analyzing them?
Either separately or working together. How the impact is the same on all three of us.
No, not really.
It
No.
is.
The water comes from basically the south end of the county, and for that water to get all the way up to the north end, those people at that trailer park or whatever it is,
They're getting the deal.
they're getting, well, yeah, they're getting the deal as it is. Otherwise, they pay their share, and they're gonna get nailed. We're on the opposite end, where we should pay minimum.
So we can write a letter.
Well, I need direction from the board on how you would like for us to proceed. If it's going to rallying the Board of County Commissioners. But either way, if this gets approved in a couple weeks, it's effective July 1st and we are financially.
We should go up 8% July 1st, if it gets passed. Till such times we adjudicate it or negotiate it back.
Be prepared.
Be prepared and just pass the cost along as it says a pass through. That's all we can resolve it.
They aren't going to sit there and try to pull the wool over our eyes. They don't know what we're talking about. They know damn good and well what we're talking about.
Okay, so then we will pass through starting on July 1st of the 8%, and then,
In parallel.
In parallel, we will make it a point to, I'll reach out to
Just go
Siegel
fight it first.
and
Right.
we can draft a letter to the Board of County Commission with our stance that I can share. And if, so far as to attending that public hearing, I would be more than happy to attend that. And I can speak.
You need a motion for the pass through.
We will have, Tony's raising his hand, but we will have to have advertise and have a public hearing to adjust the rate fee, the rate schedule.
My only counter suggestion is, to the extent that what they are doing is contrary to the rate setting in our wholesale agreement, we need to call that out. We don't want to set a precedent for the future, as they say, you didn't challenge us this time around. We did across the board without doing directly, the required analysis.
Have we had an across the board, we've had a true up,
Yes.
but have we ever had an across the board deal? I'm not aware of that.
I don't recall.
Yeah, this is gonna be 8% a year for the next couple of years. This is significant.
5 years, yeah.
It's a lot of money.
So did you get direction that you
Yes,
needed from us?
40%.
I believe I have clear direction.
Okay.
But we will put in motion, the legal advertising and to have the hearing to do the 8% pass through to the end users. In tandem, try to let.
If you're sure we can rescind it, that's great.
So for the rest of the year, that 8% was water sales. That's what we're talking,
Yes,
the water sales. That, what is that, 150 divided by 275, $8,000.
Second,
Is the financial ramification about $75,000 or $80,000 for the whole end of the year from whenever July?
That's.
no, it's more than that. It's 880,000.
No, we're about 1.5 million a year, 8% of that'd be 120,000 and half,
Yeah,
that's 60.
yeah.
So
Here it is. You look at the months.
is that the ballpark of the net impact?
Here, for the year,
No, for the
For a
remainder,
12-month year.
for the 6 months remainder of this year, the
it's
financial
gonna be
impact
under, yeah,
would be
under,
about 60,000.
right, yeah, under that.
Aren't we also in the process of asking them to buy more water from them? For the Lehigh thing that,
it would be a pass through, it
Yes.
would be a pass through to the end user. Yes, ma'am. But we would also have to set our bulk rate
Bulk rate.
to FGUA for that pass through. But either way, that would be a consumption on our side and then we would collect
Pass it through.
through it from FGUA as a consumer.
but they could say no, right?
I bet they ask the same questions.
Lee County would say no. Could,
They could.
Lee County would quit.
Lee-
I thought, no, I don't think so. As I recall, our water and sewer agreement with the county is within and without. Correct, Tony?
Then without the district.
Within and without the district.
Correct, and part of the FGUA agreement and part of the amendments that we circulated with
Yeah,
the
they
county
have a problem.
is to amend the district service area to include FGUA.
And so we did a letter of availability and Lee County said this is the maximum that we would allow specifically for that interconnect. So
There's no prohibition in our agreement
For
with
us.
Lee County that
consumers,
we can't go outside the district.
Well, that's
Well,
correct, but
the action that we're talking about here, is that gonna affect that other decision? Of buying
but
more water from Lee County?
we would tell FGUA
It costs them
what the
more.
rate is.
It'll cost
And if they choose not to purchase it, then
Oh.
we don't open the interconnect.
for clarification, the amendments, the overall purchase and acquisition agreement and the wholesale potable water agreement need to be revised to revise the description of the district service area. Because right now it's just the current boundaries.
We would have some responsibility to notify them of any additional consumption or any additional usage.
But it's actually an amendment to the agreement.
Yeah.
Because there's a map that defines.
Leslie, did you have anything else to add to it?
No, I had to sample rate schedule, so we'll just wait.
Okay. All right, I'm good on this item of direction.
Is Leslie prepared to do this 8% on July 1st? And only a number of days, a couple of weeks from now. Okay,
Okay, when's the next board meeting, July?
6th.
And
6th, which is after July 1st.
Well, if it comes effective July, it's not gonna be. Gonna be
billing
reflected in
system.
August.
Oh, that's.
so it's okay if it's effective, our rates are revised as of July 6th. Effective that day.
At that number, this would be one that would be very easy without getting into an expensive rate study. We pass this through as a base rate charge. And just be done with it.
Right,
It'd
that's
be
what,
very easy to do.
that's what I attached, the sample of the rates. with the
So we'll bring that back. All right.
Great.
We have direction to advertise the public hearing July 6th at 3 p.m.
Yes, that sounds good.
Thank you.
Yep.
So Stephen Bloom is on the line. We have the same PowerPoint presentation that was given to you all on Tuesday. It's been updated. And then we've printed hard copies of the budget for you. Would you like Stephen Bloom to go through that PowerPoint again with the updated figures?
I read it just to have him confirm that he took the 65, 55, what was the number we did the at?
55.
65, confirm that he put those in to the various spots that where we suggested to be added. And then basically give us a recap of what the impact was on the final numbers on each of the accounts. Sit and go page by page.
Yeah.
And it's a waste of time.
And I think that $150,000 too, that we use it for offset,
Mhm.
like, sure that's,
That came out.
It did come off.
and then I guess you can go ahead and answer Kathy's question.
This again is the high water mark.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. All right, go ahead.
Stephen,
Stephen.
were you on the line? Were you listening earlier when we had a resident ask specifically about Stony Brook and how we got the $800 number?
Yes, hi, good afternoon, Stephen Bloom, Infomark. Yes, I wasn't sure if she was referring to version 2 or version 1. So if we can get clarification to make sure we're talking about, if, for example, if it's the page there that you're looking at, the 820.
Well,
20.
for clarity, it doesn't matter. I think what's probably important.
Change?
Well, no, I think she was asking how he arrived at the number that's going to be assessed.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I would give definitions on how the number was calculated that is, and you can walk that back to the other versions if you have questions. And then
Okay.
it's acceptable.
Sure. So for that particular number that we're talking about for Stony Brook, it's a simple calculation of the row that says special assessments, the very first row under Stony Brook, divided by 778 units. That's how that number is calculated. It's straight up.
Give the actual numbers so that we can follow what
Pull up the page.
what page and what numbers.
Okay,
The screen, Stephen, right here.
that is correct. And again, we're talking about version 2 now. So
It is page 18.
So you're taking 865, 633 and dividing that by 778, correct?
and then if you go to the assessment chart, you'll see that exact amount in the Stony Brook column, which is
11264. Okay, got you. Page 3. It matches.
Look at that.
There's Lauren here.
No, he's on, he's on mine.
That 778 is correct.
Yep.
Good. Ooh. So at least
Now, I know there were some additional questions that I couldn't quite hear all of them, but I'm happy to go through any of them. I know there was a question about the landscaping that I think is more of an operational one, but I know there were a couple others. I'm happy to answer any of them on the Stony Brook side.
I can answer the landscaping one. It's just simply, I think Flavia did actually answer that during the meeting. It's because the landscape agreement has not been signed yet by Stony Brook. And we are setting the high water mark, which means if and when that agreement is signed, we can take that number out before we actually formally adopt the budget in August and then come up with the final numbers that will be assessed.
But can we, so right now, that number 778. If Stony Brook agrees to the record,
778 is the, the
Yeah,
number is
yeah.
806.
806, yeah, 806, and yes.
Actually, it's more. Right now, it's 2016.
Okay. What we have in the budget versus option 2. What is the option 2 about? That's it.
Less those items, less the landscape.
Yeah, less the, option 1 is if it stays as is with our recommendations with the reserves put in. If Stony Brook adheres to our recommendations and we pull those numbers back, which means the reserve, but what's the next option 2 number?
Well, we have to calculate, because we have to eliminate some of the staff. It's not just the contract. So right now we have, the contract is here plus the staff. So if we're gonna, once they sign it, if they sign it, then that contract's gonna come out and the percentage of staff is also gonna go lower. So it's multiple.
Yeah, but I mean,
I get
It's
it.
really simple. We can just take X per household out. It's not that easy.
I did it the other way around to make it a little bit clearer. I thought the deal was that if they would come back and provide us with something that they would be obligated to move the transfer over, we would immediately deduct the 223. Well, if we deduct the 223 straight off the top from 865 and divide by 778, the number comes out to be 826. So you're talking about about almost $300.
that's what I thought.
About $300 comes off the top,
Reduction.
right off the bat, reduction.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna interrupt it just for a second. Could Stephen go back to where he got that first amount of money? I can't find that.
Page 18, Kathleen.
I only have version 1, so.
Okay, so then it's really, yeah, because here, you can take this.
Where did the 865?
Yeah, where does that come from? We don't see an 86.
865, I think, I'll let Steve answer.
Yeah, there you go. You can redo that.
I'll just say.
It's just a number that makes the math add.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the prior version here. So the version 1, let me go to the page so I can reference the exact page.
It's on page 18 in this one, where you can see the version 1 versus version 2.
Oh, that's, yeah. So, I'm sorry, we forgot, we put that in there. So in that.
It was 622,925.
Correct, divided by 778.
Margaret, you want this copy?
Thank you. Because we got, she did all the works. Thank you. So it's.
Version 2 is hot off the press because we made all of the edits between Tuesday and today, and that's why.
Can I ask another question, Bruce?
Yeah, go ahead. Can you just stand up to the? Yeah.
Sure, I can go anywhere you like. Okay, so I got page 18. So.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'll get your hand again. Okay. I'm on page 18. Now, where's the amount that we are dividing by 778?
Under revenues, special assessment levy, the very, very top line, the first dollar amount.
Special assessment levy,
865,
630.
63, and that's what we're dividing 778.
Correct.
Okay, I gotta do that.
865.
Okay.
6.
She's doing it right there. Hi, Kathleen.
7,
She's doing
7, 8.
No.
Equals.
you're hitting on an issue I've had for 20 years here. I'd like to have footnotes to show how you get these numbers. This
Thank you.
divided by this equals this.
Yes,
Not all
Well, you
financial
Oh, wait a
gurus.
minute. She had a lot of notes.
okay, so,
She had a lot of notes.
Maybe next year.
okay, so that is, thank you, I just wanted to clarify. So
Okay,
I
and then just
understand.
understand that this will be the higher water mark, and then once those items are signed, if they're signed, there'll be a significant reduction of around $200.
Okay.
$200.
But you say it's
$800.
800. I have $800.67. And that's what you're, and yeah, that was like, let me find it.
On page 3, on the new one, just look at the new one and look at the old one. The new one. I got 4.
Okay, so now. So now instead of it being. The 1,000 it was before, now it's up to 2,000. So now that's like a 500 for it. It's a 35% increase.
Correct, 541.07, but like Ed says, once that, you know, if they decide to sign and agree, it's $286 less. Plus, that's just for the contract, just for the, plus the staff allocation and all that's also gonna come out of there. So we're really waiting on Stony Brook, what everyone decided, we adjust it. But that's my stance on that one.
Okay, so I'm confused then. I'm gonna go back again. Sorry. Why, we have, there's $820, that's the general fund, right? Then you have Stony Brook at $1,112. Why is that so much more than the general fund?
It's your cost.
Yeah, but our cost here and our budget is not $1,112. It's when I subtracted it.
I love.
The $1,012 comes from this $865,633 divided by 778.
All right. Go ahead, Stephen.
Any more, additional questions related to Stony Brook or kind of going back to the top level?
No, just go back to the top. Well, go ahead. What do you have? Mark?
You have a question for Stony Brook now.
Yeah, yes.
Come to the mic.
I'm looking at the budget.
Can you just wait, because we only have the one microphone and it's sitting right there on the table, so people online can't hear you, so come up.
That's what they were telling me back there. When I look at the Stony Brook budget that's separated out, it's $598,008. And that still has the landscaping and stuff in it. So where is the 865 coming from?
That's the capital reserve.
That's
stuff.
capital reserves. What I saw in here.
Which those are the items that will be pulled. Except for, where did we land?
We stay there. No, we stay there because we're waiting.
No, I get that, but that's the difference in the
Yes,
time,
that's the
and
difference.
that's the difference, is the additional capital reserve,
Correct.
but if Stony Brook agrees that,
But the capital reserve, I'm looking at other fees and charges, and that's $205,000. And yes, some of that will come out if we take over the landscaping, but it's still, the bottom line is $598,008.
That's version 1. You gotta look at the green. Look at green.
Version 2,
Look at
what we
green.
just gave you.
The version 2 actually has version 1 and
Or if you
2.
look up here, it has, this is what we added in, the stuff in red is new. This is the 2024 version 1 budget. In the gray, and then the green added in those reserve amounts, is the reason why it went up so much. It went from 598 up to.
which we're saying all those red items would come.
Correct. Along with the landscape contract.
And
I thought the road, sidewalk, street reserves, I thought the $223,000 was gonna be eliminated for this year because we're working on.
Yeah.
The turnover,
Right.
so why did
No,
that?
That was added in, yeah, if that turnover happens, if we come to that agreement, it will be removed. At this point, that's not happening, and so we're putting the reserve.
because this
To
was,
just be protected.
well,
Yeah,
this
this is high watermark.
this is our meeting on the 13th. The meeting that they still haven't agreed.
Right.
We had it yesterday, so there was no way that we as a board, I mean, I know about it, but they are gonna wait until their next meeting to even make that decision within their board themselves. So they don't, you actually don't know yet until you guys call. for a vote, you know, so that's why it's there.
So, Margaret, in the green column,
Yeah, I see
in
that.
red, that's what we're proposing will be pulled out if Stony Brook agrees if we get direction from the board that,
It will
that
work.
does not want the reserves, does not want to take our district, position on reserves.
Reserves, okay,
And with an intent to take over the roads. To start action on that the board can't make that decision,
right.
but what we were looking for is just the board's decision on those two things.
So we talked about this in length,
Yeah, I just
There's-
thought that it wouldn't be there.
but well, for the high water mark, the boards decided on Tuesday as part of the workshop to put it in. And then we have between now and when the final budget is adopted in August to work with you all and to get in writing from your HOA that you'd like to take over the landscaping contract and all associated items with that, which then would come out of the budget. And then the same thing, working towards you all taking over the road rights of way. And again, those items would come out that are associated with that.
So
So the
this-
board at the high water mark has chose.
Put that reserve
put-
back in.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
So this is not what's actually gonna be applied to your taxes. This is just setting the high water mark. So we have until.
Applied.
Yes, we have, not for sure. So we have until we actually have the public hearing in August to change that.
okay.
I anticipate a couple things.
I have, that's all the
Yeah, I
clarification. I needed.
anticipate a couple things, options that could potentially happen. Now, the landscaping, I think that's an area where we would, that would be able to be pulled out. But like the reserves, either the board says, yes, we want, as a majority, we want to proceed with taking over the roads. Then we would pull that reserves out, because at some point you're in good faith moving forward, and it'll be Stony Brook's decision on how you fund any improvements on the road. So one option is the board agrees to move forward, we pull that dollar amount. Two, the board cannot come to an agreement, and you do not vote for it. Then we would say, okay, we're either going to stick to our district philosophy with the numbers that we have in, or we could agree to cut it to 50% or 30 or whatever.
Okay.
At some point.
But that's certainly Stony Brook specific, that'll be all communities you get.
Yeah, I mean, we would
How
want to
would
do
we
it,
fund
we want to do it
Uniform.
uniform, because that's, that's the way it would potentially go. But the difference is, when it comes to the roads, is like with Pelican and Stony Brook, that your residents are paying for, for that. So we kept it in just as a high water mark, with hopes that we would pull all that out, once we get direction from the HOA.
Before it's
Okay.
actually adopted.
Okay,
It's a
that's
little
all I need.
confusing,
I
but
just
that's
wanted clarification. Thank you.
All right. Steven, I think we're good with Stony Brook. Go ahead. with
Okay.
it.
So going back to a question that Ed mentioned, the general fund does include all of the suggestions from the workshop, which equates to about a roughly $50,000 additional expenditures that were put in. In addition to that, as discussed at the workshop, we pulled out the $150,000. And let me make sure we get the right page here. It's probably good just to see this chart first, because that's where I'm heading to, is this chart. So we pulled out the $150,000, which was the transfer in from the general fund. So with those changes, what you're looking at now here, for Gateway Area 1 and 2 is the new proposed total for 2024 and compares it to 2023. So as a reference point, the total number that we had for single family in what we're calling version 1, all in single family across was $913, and I'm rounding. And you can see the new number is about 948. So that's a difference of about $35. The multifamily one, the difference between the two is about $25. Kind of just basically, showing you the effect of the changes we made from the workshop. You can obviously see the changes overall year over year. For single family, about 18%, multifamily about 20%, and then the Stony Brook inside with obviously that includes the other changes we just talked about from their own fund were being about 36%. But those are the changes that we made relative to the general fund. And that's the impact that you're seeing on it.
Stephen, a question. People are asking, if you take, we just went through the scenario with Stony Brook. We know what X divided by Y equals, how you calculated the 111.2.64. If I take on the general fund and go to the special assessment levy, 4,813,494, everybody got that on page 8. What are you dividing by to get 82020 and 633.55?
Now, see, this is the part where you're not.
Methodology comes into play, I think.
Yeah. So remember, and this is not so much for you, Ed, but just in general as a reminder, the way the general fund methodology works is it starts by categories. Administrative, parks and recs, water, roads. Each one of those categories then have their own assessment approach on different, as you know, engineering
So you have a
factors.
different ERU for each one of those that when added together create the 820.
So, you talk about upside downside in terms of methodology. This current methodology is certainly more accurate because it does split out all of those pieces and, provides more clarity. The downside is you cannot do that simple math. You can't say, hey, take this and divide it by this and there you go. We can't do that anymore.
That's what I thought. Then the other question that we had asked the other day was in the workshop. Did you get an answer on the workbook numbers? Have they been corrected to reflect new users that would be coming in on both 001 and 002?
So we did talk to Russ on that. And while there is certainly stuff he knows about that's in progress, we went through the big pieces and for what we can do now. So the short answer is yes, for what we can do now. We talked about, I think it was C5, and he had already gotten some of that stuff was already in there and built in. But we're going to have to do this he says every year, first quarter of the calendar year, we've got to go through, and he said, does a drive-through through the community and looks at some of this stuff. So what we've done, we've already done. There's a couple things in Pelican Preserve that was split out. I think it was the shopping center that was split out. One parcel was split out into 3 others, and he'll work on that for me for the final file. But in terms of the new parcels, we've already done a complete testing twice now of all the new parcels and looking at all that stuff.
So are you saying that between now and August 17th, when we meet again, will we have another run such that, notwithstanding any changes we would make at that meeting of the things we talked about, Stony Brook, but will we have another run on a more accurate ERU count for the purpose of the methodology?
I would say there will be some slight adjustments, nothing that is going to move the needle.
Okay.
Significant direction from a revenue side. I mean, obviously, we've talked about this at the workshop. The more units that come in, more that switch over from the the lower types to the higher types will obviously helps everyone. And I certainly, and I can tell you if there is an adjustment that comes in, we will do it. And certainly if it when it benefits everyone. I can't say for sure. We've always seen every once in a while there's 1 or 2 odd ones that come in, or the county will come back to us and say, hey, there was a mistake on this parcel, that type of stuff. So that stuff is ongoing, like you just mentioned it, all the way up through August 16th and then some. But again, if you're looking for something that's going to significantly move the needle, that the answer to that part of it is no.
I agree.
Stephen, this is Bob. I just have one comment, I guess. Since we're now looking at version 2 dated June 14th, if that could be annotated on every page in a footer. Because other than that, I could.
Yeah, no, that's not a problem.
Version 1, version 2, don't spill them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pull sheets out a lot, guys, then I don't know where to put it back.
Yep.
Thank you.
We'll take care of that.
I also have a question. So regarding the description of the budget, like if we have any changes, that can be done later on, because we're only really looking at the number today, right? Because there are some things that they need to.
As long as the money stays within those categories. So like if the total of the waterway and the total of the,
I think it's funded the Parks and Recs, yeah, so we will. We just have to rename things
that's,
in here,
we,
give it the, go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Renaming things and that's Chelsea's
As long
saying,
as it's not the numerical.
right, you're setting, and we've said it a couple times today, but you're setting your high water mark. So ultimately, anything that brings it down, or, as long as you're not going above it for any of these categories, you're still, you still have time to do that. Obviously, the next step from here becomes the mail-let notice, and so we can't be whatever we're mailing out, we obviously can't see that. But we can certainly come down and any categories can be changed in terms of the GL accounts. And then the enterprise is another place where, because we haven't talked about that just yet today, but obviously the enterprise is not affected by the high water mark. And that certainly can be modified between now and then and August.
Steve, I have one thing. So I know we've talked in length about it with the Stony Brook numbers, specific with staffing. Now we're setting the high water mark. Does the staffing have to stay put percentage wise? Or is
No.
there? So, okay,
Now, you can move the staffing again.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's gonna,
I think
you're
so.
running from Peter, Paul's gotta pick it up,
and then
and it's gonna go up.
it may go up for another look.
Yes, it's a reduction, listen.
You've got one.
So like if we,
No,
I
but
think
it
what
won't be.
why Chelsea's asking, because if we take staffing, the percent of staff allocation away
Yeah.
from Stony Brook and move it to there's the general fund,
It goes up.
it's gonna go up.
And so does, yeah.
Right, so in that scenario, it depends on how you do it. If it's strictly going from Stony Brook to the general fund, and there would have to be an offset somewhere to
so
keep
we
that.
would need to put in a contingency line item anticipating that change in the 001 fund,
Then I will.
because that would be the high mark, correct?
Correct. So if you're expecting, and you look at the Stony Brook, and I think in total is what, around 25,000 was what the total salaries were. And if you're expecting to remove a bulk of that out, that's a good point. It's a good suggestion then to increase wherever you
We'll
feel
just
that
add a contingency
will go.
line item.
So you had a meeting yesterday with Stony Brook. We've got representatives here. We can either add the contingency in, or, I mean, how comfortable do we feel like?
I don't think it's fair to them. I think they need their whole board. That's what they agreed on yesterday, that their whole board should, and I think it's Monday. So it's good.
So what's adding, I mean, it's not a big deal. We add the contingency in and we just back it out.
And then it,
What are we talking about here? Because if we take out just the capital, that has no impact on the one.
No. That.
That.
I understand, but if we're talking staff, what are we talking about? $2,000 at the max? It's 16,000
It's not gonna be significant.
Well,
It was like $2,000.
the point is, there's a change, that change would have, that would have to come from somewhere, so then we would have to take that money from a line.
So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go and you're gonna artificially create a number equal to the number that you might take.
Figure it out, exactly, okay.
Go to the contingency.
I don't have
Okay,
I have a
a number. So
It's the total amount of, well, see hang on. Yeah,
It's not a significant. That is. Should be correct.
Yeah, it's like, Stevens, I think 25 is the mention more than covering it.
So Stephen, you'll be able to add that contingency line item to the
We
001.
haven't even decided.
Is it for the full, like a full 25,000 you want me to put in?
Whatever, just covers us.
It's only 24,133 to begin with, if you took out everything.
Right, yeah. It
Yeah.
depends on what would be the piece of the staffing that would be affected by this change.
No more than that.
Let's, I think 15.
15 would be a reasonable.
15,000.
15. The
Okay.
other one is that when we have the meeting, people always want to say, and we've heard them, Why is this? Why did this happen? I'd like to see the 23 breakdown and as close as we can make parity between 23 and 24.
What do you mean?
The
Breakdown?
items.
We have that, it's,
No, I'm talking about for the public meeting.
yeah,
They're gonna ask, where did this, I mean, right now, you're gonna be looking at 17, 20, 35%. That's going to be on the street like tomorrow, if not tonight. The issue is we need to be able to explain that. And right now, in my deep brain, is that this is almost totally capital and reserves. And if they see operating versus operating across the board, those increases are not out of line at all. But when you throw in the capital, throw in the reserves, that's when you pick this up. I think they need to see that, and then we can say, here's our problem.
Well, I think maybe to solve that, we can go through all the effort to do that with about 6% of the population actually gonna read it and pay attention to it. What we can do is, when we put this out there, we can have a statement, we'll call it a budgeting statement, a summary. And in there, we can say X amount percentage of this budget increase has to do with capital reserve, which has not been,
I don't have a problem with that.
which has not been, fully approved yet.
That's fine.
That over the next X amount of months will be rigorously reviewed. So, and that's what people need to know. The high water mark, it's not what they're gonna pay at the end, and it's always higher. Last year was extremely high by design. So,
I just want to make sure that they understand that as we discussed at that meeting, at that workshop, a lot of that operation stuff, you sit here and play with it until you know what freezes over and you don't change nothing. It's that capital reserve is where it's at. And we can either define and explain why we think it needs to be there or we can't.
and I'll give you a good example right now. And this is what, I know we're not there yet, but one of the things that I want to discuss is like the dog.
Page 50.
The page 50, the dog park, the fun park, additional parking at Sherman Soccer Complex. Good ideas. Makes logical sense to move the dog park to the fun park. It frees up. There's parking, all that stuff. In theory, it's a really good idea. However, I don't think it's something we need to do next year. I think with building out the administrative buildings, there's other
So
things.
in other words, it's expendable.
It's an area that we should table for future consideration. I think it's a good idea and it makes a lot of sense. But that's almost $600,000 that we could cut out of the budget. Next year, just in one area, and maybe
Other example.
Like to me,
that's an example.
the additional parking and additional. I would just put park on the grass. That's it. Remove the gate, park on the grass. So
I think there's all kinds of options.
Yeah.
You've got a high water mark. I just want to make sure that everybody.
And I agree with that. I think, and we try to get in front of this every year with information. And the problem is most people just don't read it. So if we just have a quick, short statement. This is the first pass. Here's the areas that we're gonna focus on, which is probably another, I'd probably say anywhere from maybe around 7%.
What kind of separate it though from capital reserves to operational reserves? One is kind of an auditor's wish list deal. The other one is really a need and necessity. Capital reserves, you need those, but that auditor's deal that we might have a hurricane hit tomorrow or some other reason to have that 60, 90-day supply of money. Yeah.
But this also speaks to the feedback that we've gotten from residents for a long period of time. When we say we need to fund something, they always say, well, why didn't you plan for this in the past? And we say, well, we can't go back. So in that statement, it needs to be, capital reserves and revenue is the bulk percentage of the increase, which is still being reviewed. And here's why the capital reserve amount increases in it. What's our philosophy behind it? And why is it a good thing to have a capital reserves funded at whatever percentage? I think we keep it simple.
Okay, so I care about.
And you made a very good point a couple meetings ago about the reserve study that we had done. And when I went through and kind of added up the reserves in all the different places and whatever, I found that it came about 300,000 short of what was in the capital reserve study. I think you were trying to get up to the capital reserve study number, or.
Yeah, because we go to 100%, we can always go back.
So I'm wondering if you're comfortable with that, or not.
I-
And I mean, this would be the time if you want to increase the capital reserves.
I didn't delve into that in
In some-
detail. I thought that we had that pretty well covered, that where are we at on the capital reserve allowance? What percentage level are we in there? Are we at 50 or with 100 or what?
Yes.
Right.
I thought it was 100.
Pelican did 110.
Well, Pelican's still neutral. Let's not get into that. Like, we did it at 100. I think we did it at 100. No, we were gonna come down to something less. Again,
That's where I was at. That's what I did. But I didn't check it though.
That was my understanding as well, is that you agreed to fund, to do the high watermark at 100%, knowing that we would
No.
tweak it between now and August.
But I think in the capital reserve study that we had done
Firm that
earlier
did it.
this year, I think it was 1,200,000 something or other, that they were recommending for reserves for this next year, 24.
Oh, one.
I don't remember. I didn't
Well,
differentiate.
no, I think it was all of it.
Yeah.
All of the reserve. They want us to put over $1 million in
More than we were.
than we had in the past. And I believe when I added it up at home, it was about 300,000 short.
Do you know what
So-
the answer is that one?
It was about 900 some odd.
I thought we were at the 100% level. That's why I didn't challenge.
Okay. Then maybe I didn't find all of it then, because I was going through page by page to find.
Steve, are we at 100% of the capital reserve 001 allocation that the capital reserve firm recommended?
No, Laura, if you want to go to the capital summary page, you have those numbers at the bottom of that to kind of show them what the study recommended.
No, it's in this one. Where the heck you're at?
So you're talking about
About
healthcare.
49.50, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, you just do it right by it.
Oh, I did.
You had made the point earlier.
49, page 49 is where it starts.
Here?
No, 48. You have it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you go up and you look at it, it's just saying the general fund reserve contribution 1.2 for 2024. You're talking about that from a cumulative standpoint. Those are the numbers right there from the reserve study.
1.2 is in the reserve study.
And what percentage, isn't that what we're trying to figure out? At what-
Yeah, Carol
Carol-
thinks she came up. with
184,
900.
And Bob, you guys do 100% in Pelican?
They did more than
110%?
Yeah.
Yeah.
they did more than-
I mean, personally,
The Pelican contribution did not look at the study. This is-
but I know, that's just what you guys been doing.
Right,
right?
that's just
I mean,
their
personally,
historic.
on large items, and maybe my philosophy would be across the board, I would do it at 50%, because that way you're splitting your population. You've got your existing population paying for a portion, and then you finance the other 50% for 20 years. That way, people that will,
1.3 compares to.
that will, that will also consume the benefit down the road. To me, that's a little more balanced. But that's the way I would do it.
So we have to be 100%. Okay.
But that's if you finance there.
Yeah.
No,
That's why I think 50%.
That's if you win.
I-
We don't really think.
That's where we're
but
at.
I'm just wondering if it's comfortable.
Yes.
I mean, you like the 100%, Ed?
I'm all for the 100% for the high water mark. It is then subject to this.
That's about where,
No, I'm talking just what's your philosophy? Do you,
where do you think we're gonna end up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could
That's-
probably find one.
yeah, that's what I
Any
would.
higher
That's
than
what I would.
that, I would choose.
Well, the one thing is,
600,000.
that is the tail that's wagging the dog. And if we want to try to appease the people on an issue, that would be one place you could do it, but you guys got to keep in mind,
Well,
we have got the life cycle, the service life, so much equipment and assets coming due in the next 10
if we
years.
go those
It's not
50%
funny.
of responsible. I agree with that.
And the same philosophy will go for all four. If we're gonna cut over 150%, they were gonna be cut 50, at least 50%. You know what I'm saying? The reserves, yeah, just.
Because to me, especially on large ticket items, it makes sense. You have your existing population pay proportion and the future population pay proportion. That's why I like the 50-50. It,
Yeah, we just had
balances
people
the,
that benefited last 20 years, they get it.
yeah.
But they probably get that.
Do you want to do that?
All right, so any other questions, Carrie? Have any other questions? No, we're all good? Okay, so we're all set. Good, Tony, we need it.
What is the appropriate motion?
Well, the next item is the agenda item 11Z, it's like David. And
Don't we have to move on this one first?
That's the part of it.
Oh,
D, the vote, so I guess part of it would be adopt the budget subject to the amendment. Right?
Well, we didn't amend.
On that screen.
it.
Version
Oh.
2.
Version, well, I think the amendment would be a contingency line item, story. Wasn't ever discussed.
Oh, yeah, into the, oh, yes, so Stephen, there'll be, in a contingency salary line item in the 001 for the 15,000. Other than that, the budget is approved as version 2.
So just for clarity, I'm sorry, for clarity purposes, the last comment about adding the 50% of the funding of the reserve, was that just?
No,
That's just discussion.
That's for future.
For the August.
So the only,
That's the fat and trim in a later day.
the only change to version 2, which is the one they're going to approve, is that we're gonna add that contingency line into the general fund of $15,000 for if the salaries come from Stony Brook and move into the general fund. And then obviously if they'll get removed from wherever it's appropriate when we adopt it.
Motion to adopt resolution 2023-26, approving the budget as amended as well.
Version 2.
Particularly version 2.
Version 2.
With the further revisions made today, and set up for a public hearing is indicated in the resolution.
Okay, so I need that.
I will move that.
Okay, so a motion by Kim, second by Ed, all in favor, say aye.
And that's for the August 17th.
Yep, and I have for 6 o'clock, which is the standard time we've been having it, is at work. That's when we typically have the meetings are at 6.
Hold on, let me.
And you know, I'll remind you again, I
Yes, I
will
know.
not be there and I will not be here at the first meeting also.
And he's going to be here,
I
right?
thought we relocated it to where you're going.
I just missed that motion.
I said that, no way.
I didn't see that legislation passed.
Is the whole meeting on the 16th gonna start at 6 o'clock? or-
The public hearing for the.
We're gonna start our regular.
You have, like we do normally, we have our normal meeting.
It's not start at 3 o'clock then.
Yeah, we don't get paid twice. No, I know.
No, if we're having the meeting at 6,
What we normally do is have our meeting from like 3 to 5, and then we take like a dinner break, and then we come back at 6 for the hearing. That's how we've been doing historically.
okay, all right. I just don't want to be sitting here from 3 to 6. Like, we can do a 2-hour meeting and take an hour break, that's fantastic. No, no, it's chair.
I know.
Jeff, I might just ask you.
No, you're wasted.
I guess ask Laura a question. Laura, I know you're really good about the calendaring, the timeline, the timing to send out the letters. the
Yes.
Notice. And the numbers right now would be the numbers that would go out, because it talks about per parcel, per ERU.
Yes,
Sort of the allocation is O&M,
yes.
the new capital numbers. And if the board wants to change those, we have the high watermark numbers now. If you want those numbers to go out, then they would stay where they are right now. If you want to change them, then it needs to be by what date you're gonna send it out. I think we always give ourselves plenty of time, at least 30.
It's by the end of the month.
Yeah.
Needs to be sent out. I already am working with Maryland. I'll make sure that all this stuff the budget gets to Lee County, like it needs to be filed like tomorrow or whatever. So they're taking care of that.
If we meet that, and we obviously going to go through and discuss this capital and that stuff. Will Steve be able to crunch the numbers such that
I
at
can.
that meeting of the 6th,
Yeah.
we'll watch the numbers move around?
And most importantly is the variations of percentage through the capital reserves.
Yeah.
That's the one we want to be able to see. This is at 100%, 75, 50.
I have the spreadsheet that, because I'm not gonna ask David to be on until the budget, but I have the spreadsheet, so I can get through the calculation.
Yeah, actually be able to give us the board the idea as to what will be plugged into the individual notice.
Right.
numbers. That would go up.
It would be, so what would be plugged into the individual notices will be the version 2 budget that you looked at today and approved with that additional line put in for salaries. So
Does
I don't know how the 15,000 will affect it.
If he runs a calculation to have that 50% in his pocket, ready to go,
I'll make
it'll save a lot of time.
I'll make a note for myself to be ready for that on the 6th.
Is there any reason why we couldn't maybe get it sooner?
Yeah,
Or what it might look
Yeah.
like if the budget was approved at a 50% mark? Just kind of see
Steven,
what it
can
would be at.
right, take a note for that, can you do it like at 175, 50 and 25%?
I wouldn't be able to look at it.
For clarity, exclude Pelican. Then where they are.
Okay.
And I
And I
would,
wouldn't
don't
post
go
that.
above 50 at this.
Just not.
No, it's for you guys, and can you send that to me, then I'll get it out to the board.
Or the slide already has, the slideshow already has a, slide in there that shows the incremental amount at 175 and 50%.
Was that the one, that you sent me with the revised numbers from today?
I thought I saw it.
Yeah, so, but I can put in, I'll add 25%.
What
Okay.
page is that?
It's not in there.
I was all on it.
Over there.
Oh,
All right.
We will, we will distribute that to the group.
Yeah, if you could just make sure that's updated with the good number, with the numbers of the little, the small
Oh, yeah.
tweet you made today, and then I'll get that out to the board.
Will
Thank
do.
you.
Okay, so.
Thank you, Stephen.
Now, are you sure we don't need a motion to approve the fiscal year 2024?
No, you did that with the resolution.
That's what the resolution.
You approve setting the public hearing and approve the budget for
All at,
purposes.
all at one shot.
Any adoption hearing, now I approve.
All at one shot.
Said all that.
Thanks for checking.
You got a good motion.
That was your
Oh,
motion.
thank you.
Minutes will reflect.
Okay, the next item.
So, again, this item, I've kind of mentioned it to you in the past. It's had extensive,
Can I just ask the people in the back of the room, we are using an area mic this time, and it's really hard for people to hear with all the talking that's going on back there. It's picking up everything in the room. So people online are having a really hard time. So if you need to talk, please leave the room.
so this item that was mentioned, we've had extensive damage to the soccer fields recently. And what we thought would be enough money early on in the beginning of the fiscal year of $30,000 for the sod replacement is insufficient. So we are requesting additional funding to be moved from existing line items to accommodate the 3 items from Mainscape, the sod replacement, some, it's not rugworm, there's a mole cricket treatment and top dressing. Thank you.
I have some questions.
Okay, so I have a question. So does this include the earth expert that we were going to get? It seems like this is all being done through just the landscape guys. And I thought we were going to have the turf expert come in and tell us how we can beef this up.
Mainscape, as the current contract says, Mainscape subs it to them. Next fiscal year, we're looking to circumvent that.
Okay, that was exactly my question. Is
Okay.
if we're spending the money, let's make sure we're spending it with the turf experts, not with Mainscape directly. So that's your 100%.
JSM will,
JSM is facilitating.
they will be sub to come in and do, not all of this work, but the turf maintenance work, yes. The sod is coming from Mainscape. But the deep tine aeration and all of the actual turf maintenance work, that is being subbed to JSM.
Okay, then I have no problem with this. But I was wondering, is there work that they could do this summer? Those turf guys, the experts, to make it even better? Because we did up the rates. And if there was a way that we could add some extra money to make it a better product come September, when it gets opened up again, I think our users would be very happy with it. And rather than look at turf, I'd rather start to look at this as a revenue area. And so sometimes you have to spend money to make more money on something. And so I'm wondering if the turf guys could tell us if we need even more stuff done this summer that will help us down the road.
Or if they do come out to do this, we can ask them. Now, they know that we're anticipating entering into contract with them for next fiscal year. You want to touch on?
Yeah, I just got a couple comments. So about half of the work being done on the fields aren't just sod replacement, we'll also have soil going down. That's JSM's portion of the project. It's kind of a step to allow that the sand that's basically there to hold more moisture, get some good soil back in the ground, as a top dressing is
And
what
we're
they
doing
call
that
it.
entirely over
The
all
whole
5
thing.
fields.
Yeah, it's almost
How
half.
much top dressing are we putting in? You know, how many
Um,
inches?
All right, so it's a 60-40 ratio of soil to top dressing. That's going on fields 2, 4, and 5.
Not 1.
And then sand to be applied to fields 1 and 3.
That's just based on the recommendation.
Yeah, and that's $26,000 of the 70 is just that soil work. So if that helps at all.
So- To answer directly, yes, we can ask JSM, is there anything that we can do right now to better up the product for when we open back up?
Especially, because it's a really good point, and I hate shutting the fields down, especially during the summer. But if we're gonna shut them down, they need to be ready to go when we come back, plus be in a position where they can be, more sustainable. So we might want to talk to them too about how do we get ahead, like, should we look at having a sod farm, put somewhere over the summer to give it time,
I've heard that idea. I really like that idea. The biggest reason I like that idea is because we could do deeper cuts and actually place, I mean, if you've seen on some fields, you actually see a fresh sod cut placed on a field that's not sliding around because it's dug down below the root level. And if we had that on the property, we'd be able to grab a chunk of sod, move it to the area where we're having a problem, set it, and it's actually in place and not moving around. So I think it's a really good idea. I think a lot of these ideas, once we move to a management company that understands these fields really well and kind of pick their brain on some of those ideas, and utilize some of our own property, I think it'd be a great idea.
Yeah, and I would just say too, summer's a great time when no one's out there, get things painted,
Oh, yeah.
clean up, the parking bumpers if they need it. I mean, all that.
Yeah, we have
That's just labor.
a pretty lengthy list, ongoing right now, which a lot of it's been underway in the last couple of weeks. I do believe we could have done a little bit better, and got a couple of weeks more ahead of, especially the sod replacement. I mean, coming in here, the 15th, I think we should have been well, kind of on our way already, sod being replaced at first, that would have saved us a couple of weeks, but we do have, vendors on standby. As soon as we have approval, we should be able to get things rolling right away, in terms of sod replacement.
I like Carol's idea. Let's make sure we put them on the spot to ask them, is there anything else we can do such that they don't come back next year and say, well, if you would have done this.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's do it right now.
And the last thing that I'll say is there's resources available during the summer. A lot of kids need volunteer hours. So if you need pressure washing of the sidewalks, you need, painting, cleaning, bathrooms cleaning, I mean, whatever, kids are looking for volunteer hours over the summer.
Yeah, it's really good.
I will tell you, we did have a meeting with Mainscape, and they have told us that the irrigation there are issues on that soccer field. And so, we asked them, what is it that you need to make it better? And so we're waiting for them to come back. I think it was a pump or something with pressure. And so.
I thought we did that already. We
just-
did that already.
So go back and push them because we just
Yeah.
spent a significant amount 2
Was it
years
2
ago
years
on
ago?
irrigation.
Yeah.
They said the same thing
Right.
this year.
Yeah, I think we went to reduce flow or reduce pressure heads, so they have a higher output, but they're not putting out as much volume. And I think it was impactful, but not as impactful as, say, like stepping up, an additional pump at the field where we could increase pressure all the time.
Well, they can't recommend improvements and then 2 years later saying those improvements didn't work.
Yeah, well, and again, this, I think, leads to Carol's point, let's ask JSM.
Yeah, was that, okay.
I do have some questions. So regarding, so the mold cricket treatment, that is not covered under the current contract, because I did not see an exclusion for that particular pest.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so I think.
This is a specialized treatment based on the current condition out there.
But I want to go to the contract. The contract does
Okay.
not say that, like, because I had asked this question about another issue we had 2 years ago, and he did not. We had a quote and we're gonna pay for it, and I'm like, that does not, it does not say that in the contract. So I would challenge them on that because it does not exclude this particular pest in there.
Okay, I can verify that.
That's
We
one.
probably need to ask, have they been doing any mold cricket treatment over there
That's what
today?
started.
So if it's excessive and it requires this, then were they treating it right?
But even for the contract, it's as needed. So excessive is not awarded in the contract, if it's as needed, if they're doing it, if they're doing it, we maintain it, it's automatic. If they need more, it's on them, if they need less, it's good on them, so if that's kind of how it goes, so I would challenge them on that.
Okay.
And second, I
You're
would,
on this part of Florida. You've got Bermuda. You better have both.
yes, and that's,
It happens every year.
I mean, the second one is, so the funding of that, I mean, I know we have to move it, but the last thing I want, the actual on the tree replacement and the plant replacement program, I mean, this is way far off of what the actuals are.
Yeah, this is old numbers
Very-
at this point.
And then I just want to make sure that we're not taking from Peter to pay Paul regarding the plant replacement program, knowing that at Stony Brook, we just had to add, almost 10 grand.
Mhm.
There is an update there, so
I gave those as options.
I would
Just to
be
show
more
you a couple of
comfortable
options where we had bigger buckets.
removing everything from the tree replacement, because tree replacement is very few that we're gonna be doing now and then, because. But plant replacement, because that's the beautification project and that's what's going over there, and we knew there's an upgrade, and there's also FPL easement here with the shrubs. So I think I would like to see the 32,000 come out of the 56 or whatever is left over there.
Okay,
Not from, because those numbers are really off. That's just my feedback.
yeah, these were like April
And
numbers.
Yeah,
This gave you kind of a couple different options, and you could fund from one, or some from one and some from another.
because I'm just thinking, from everything that we told the residents on 2023 that they wanted it, replanting, we said, if we remove it or something's down, then we'll try our best to accommodate and put it one somewhere else. Well, there's none of that happened. So that's why I think we're gonna have more money left there than into the plant replacement program. That's just my feedback.
So we're gonna recommend.
I recommend it to take out of all of the tree replacement program.
For the over.
Basically, we're gonna
The
recommend
32,000.
we accept the motion. Now, the details of that.
No, we have to, well,
We
no,
have to
because
move the money.
we have to move the money, so we have to
Well,
tell them.
yeah, no, we're approving that in the motion. Approving moving the money. Now you're just doing the direction.
No, the motion.
No, we have to tell them where it comes from, yeah.
We have to say it's gonna be in tree replacement. Not plan. If we do, okay.
Or
Yeah,
can
yeah,
or can it be general?
I thought that would leave that decision to staff.
Well, no, and that's.
Well, maybe our direction is that we don't pull the money from the plant replacement.
Okay.
Then,
Still.
now-
Push the task without thinking
Yeah.
about it.
Yes.
Okay, I'm good with that. Okay.
We will review the whole cricket for the contract and pull that out.
It's less than 5,000. It's not.
Yeah.
I'll move to approve the Mainscape contract for the soccer fields in a figure not to exceed 75,000. In case there's some little something or other, you don't have to bring it back to us.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second, on favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll get that schedule on the way.
District manager reports.
Any question
For admin.
for admin?
That's what you do.
I have none.
I just want to call out the Muni code. We are slowly trying to get district documents in Muni code, albeit minutes, resolutions, budgets, just any type of documents. We're slowly trying to get them in there. That way the residents and yourselves can access them freely without having to ask for a public records request. So that link is on our website.
And I think the nice thing about it is it has a function that we aren't able to do internally, because although these documents show that they're PDFs, they're actually photographs because they're scanned in, so they're not searchable.
Yeah.
The Muni code turns them into searchable documents, but you can go to our site and say, I want to find everything to do with Stony Brook, and it'll search every document that's on Stony and on the thing and bring you back all the results for anything with the word Stony Brook in it.
One item, I'm not sure if we did anything official with it, but we said with the new building, with potential monuments and other stuff, we needed a design or style guidelines for colors, images, logos.
I know Randy has a meeting tomorrow with Lee Designs, and I'll follow up, we can follow up to see if that's part of those discussions.
Yeah, because we definitely need to land on a style guide, color schemes prior to us doing anything with monuments, buildings. And now we can land somewhere. Again, summer's a great time. If we're gonna paint buildings or do any type of painting, we should probably have a style guide to adhere to.
Okay.
And I think Andrew and I had a conversation because the monument at Stony Brook, they're doing a lot of repairs now. So it needs to be painted, and the last thing we wanted was to paint with existing colors if we're gonna change it. So might as well paint it with the correct
The gateway
colors.
monument near Stony Brook.
Yeah, the gateway one, yeah, about that.
The big one on this one with the building is this issue of this permitting and easement issue. Lining up a new ballpark. Where does that stand? Or are you gonna talk about it later?
Yeah, we can touch on it now. I do have, I CC a blind copy. A blind copy of the board on an email I sent to the 3 HOA board members. Had no response since we've had multiple communications with them with regards to the easements. I did hear back from 2 out of 3 of those board members. And we have a meeting set up for next Wednesday, which I believe Flavia will be attending, to discuss the easements with them. And hopefully put this to bed because the permitting agencies are asking for these easements right now.
Well, we're gonna hit a brick wall if we don't get this resolved.
So,
Is there pushback? Is that?
yes. Yes, absolutely. There's a desire to have the Thompson pump without any, consideration of the other easements right now. At least that's the sense I've received. So, from a district standpoint, the other reasons take priority.
Hi.
Any other questions?
The financials. See, yes, it didn't look like the categories for the financials changed any when you changed.
They won't,
It won't.
no, the financials are still all being produced out of the same system. It's all the same data.
I thought it was gonna affect how they looked and how.
Not yet. So if you have any suggestions for ways that you would like to see the financials, at this point, what we did is we wanted to make sure that things stayed status quo, going from the Infomark's current system to our system.
Right.
So the financials are still being produced using the same report generator. I have to learn how to use jet reports.
We're going.
No, they won't look any different. I mean, I would like to change them, but I have not had time to teach myself the software yet to change the reports, because they're not generated from the accounting software. They're actually done through an add-in into Excel. And an add-in that I've never used before, so I need to learn it so that I can structure the report. So if there's something in the financials that you're not seeing that you'd like to see, if there's stuff in it that you don't care about, let me know and we can tweak and come up with a format. Because I know like what Chelsea wants to
I would
see,
like to see
different than what I want.
some sort of a summary page
Okay,
where basically, if we want to see the detail, we can. I'm not saying don't give us the all the pages. But if there's some way we could see one page where it could say, we are. Go with the total numbers rather than the detail, and basically how much of our budget have we spent? Up to a certain time, we spent 60% of our budget and we're only halfway through the year or something like that.
so do you want them summarized?
Yeah, I
You
want
want
it like a dashboard
Okay.
summary for us,
You already have that. You made one. for
these
you.
are revenues, these are
Exactly what she's
expenses.
asking for Parks and Recs, you know how you did it, like the percentages?
You want an executive summary? We can make
Yeah,
that.
do you want the summary by the fund level, like by general fund, Pelican, Stony Brook, or do you want it by fund and then like, waterway? Do you want it like by those high level categories under each, or do you just want everything for 001, everything for 002, everything for the?
Why don't you put together?
And what is
I give you some options. I'll do some options.
A lot of those systems have dashboards.
Like
I can do it in BI too.
Yeah.
There's a plugin for BI, which I could learn that.
Yeah, I would say.
She'll pull some options and then show them to you, and then you can just tell us what.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, it'd be way easier.
Same thing with any of the
They
other.
probably have splits and stuff.
But I'm on vacation until next Thursday after today, so it's not coming before the week after.
Well, I was just surprised that it was so similar.
It's exactly the same.
And like all the comments, on the comments page after the financials, they're the same things they were back in, 7 months ago.
Okay, understood.
There wasn't anything new on there, so it was like, why do we even have them anymore?
We're gonna talk about this Lee County traffic report, sheriff's report.
You can, that shows us.
What do we have to do to tell them no more warnings? They're giving warnings out like sugar for driving 55 mile an hour on Gateway Boulevard.
We can't
How
tell.
are they making quota with all these?
Do what?
So how are they making quota with all these?
I can make,
There is no quota.
I can make an ask, but it's ultimately, from what I've understood, it's up to the deputy at the time. It's up to it's their call.
It's my understanding, talking to the deputy over on our committee is, and he says it's just real simple. We can do anything we want over 8 mile an hour warning, or I'm sorry,
Ticket.
and my thing is, I'm sitting here, he's issuing as many warnings as he is tickets, and he's differentiating. One guy goes 52 and gets a warning, and another guy goes less and gets a ticket. What's going on?
I can make the ask of the sheriff to be more strict, but again, it's their
It's-
call.
Coming over here, there was a sheriff going south with me. And one of those little cars that has the big mufflers on the back, one of the little bugs, was heading north. If he wasn't doing 65 mile an hour, he wouldn't have done mile an hour over 70. Cop just kept on.
Well, and I'd say now,
I'll do a
it's even
speeding.
more important going from the roundabout to in front of 7-Eleven where the construction is.
Red flag.
If you're not familiar, you start hauling ass through there and you hit those barrel, I mean, it's tight. So I think our recommendation would be, because there's construction, now's a great time for them to be a little bit more.
I can,
We have asked, since these parks are closed, to not just sit stagnant here, to check on them, but then go patrol and do parking and be in the community. So I did make that ask of Jen, last week or the week
You
before.
get the summary reports after they're,
We get these
Yeah,
reports.
when you
where-
get see this, like, that's what we get.
You go from just north of the roundabout to just past the pool. It's a racetrack. It's an absolute racetrack there. So.
Immediately after.
yeah, so.
Yeah, they send them as soon as they're, we get them at like 1
That's what-
o'clock in the morning. Yeah, they send them right away.
Joseph, I don't know if you've asked them to, it might be helpful sometimes. I've seen this with other districts and other counties. Like the substation commander or the district commander or the sheriff comes to the CDD board and then sort of gives a state of the law enforcement in the community and also as a protected community.
Election year, I'm sure they'll come.
Yeah, and I'm sure, I'm sure would be happy to come.
If the board wishes for that, I can make that.
That might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, he used to be a substation commander in North Naples, right?
I'm sure there's quite a few people on the journey, but they're also report on 82.
Slowing it
Yeah.
down.
Oh, yeah, that's too.
Yeah, it's an 82.
Go on.
Alright,
Is there anything else for the admin report? One last thing, I'm just gonna pass this around. We have the red, white and blue, the red, white and cool, event. Please, I will be sending out a notice, but we're gonna have a dunk tank, and I don't know if any of the board members want to come and participate in that dunk tank and or speak. Like as a guest speaker, but we would love some volunteers.
Ed, I think we're gonna make a motion to make you go. I'll make a motion with them, Ed.
I can't swim. If this were after August 17th, it might be a gunfire tank.
So,
Excellent.
Can I just suggest that, I have seen it in the past, like maybe, I would say 10 years ago, we were able to partner with a commercial like the tavern and have them put this on their door. So maybe Randy, a good time for him to meet out and just ask 7-Eleven and, places like that.
we can go around tomorrow.
I think the most effective thing in this community is which you put
Yeah,
your banners up. One on each side, seems to be one of the best mechanisms to get people's attention.
I want to differentiate the dunk tank from the axe throwing. Moving away from each other.
Or just volunteer in. Yeah. You're nominating it for both?
Actually, you couldn't swim, so I'll take that and you go to the extra.
It'll be like that board at the circus where you have. Spinning like a girl, you know?
Alright.
Move this on, just to let it down.
Yeah, I read along.
So again, I'm sure Austin's gonna bring this up here shortly, but we have a system-wide irrigation shutdown next Tuesday and Wednesday. The county has to, no, I'm not, I'm giving them an update. As part of the roundabout project, the contractor has to do the tie-in of the part of the new irrigation system, so the system will be shut down for 2 days. We, as staff, are taking that opportunity to put in some valves elsewhere in the system that we know are needed. So we Celemonar posted that, Randy pushed that out. Just nobody's irrigation systems will have water if you're in the district next Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah, we emailed that out to the residents, like try not to have your vendors schedule service
Yeah.
because they won't be able to do anything.
We try to give,
Fear of moving.
Yeah.
the county wanted to do it 2 days ago or this week, and we're like, no, we have to give notice, at least a week's notice. So
We should try to incorporate some kind of pool games for this. You know, just like in the pool race or something fun. The kids, I'm fun.
okay. And then one last thing, just for me, I do have a planned vacation the week of the 4th.
A lot of vacation.
I will be in North Carolina,
But
but I will be on for the board meeting. I will be on virtually. So,
all right. I have a question for the public works, yeah, when we get to that.
yeah, I'm done with admin. Just side comment, I know we joked about swimming and non-swimming. Randy told me that on Week News, somebody swam in a pond up here at the Legacy Apartments and drowned.
I was just pulling that up, yeah.
Do not swim in our ponds.
Near drown.
No,
They did
No.
drown.
do not swim in ponds. Let me just, please go to our pool, don't go to our ponds. Fortunate. All right, the public works, you want to?
I just have, I want, yeah, public works, and I didn't have a clarification on, or just, I guess, a follow-up on under the ponds, page 141, the community wide. So it said the littoral narrowing is ongoing along with the regular maintenance, great. But what is the follow-up from my complaint of how it's getting done?
But the spraying,
Yes.
yeah, we notified the vendor right away after last meeting. From, utilizing a boat where they should be utilizing a boat and not from the bank. We went over that extensively on a couple different areas where we pointed out to them.
That way we check to see if any of that activity has been done and if they're adhering to the width.
Yeah, I mean, we briefed them on it. I mean, that's all we did. We communicated.
So I guess my question is, so since they sprayed from shore 8 feet or 10 feet out.
Mhm.
Is the plan for them to go back and spray what's left over? So when it starts growing, they will just take care of the deeper part? Or they're planning to leave that the way it is because
Well-
it's gonna have to be sprayed, so why not do it now?
I think we need to be very clear on how we're measuring the distance. I think that's part of the problem, right?
Well,
Is it-
it's,
is they're spraying from,
From control elevation, right?
right, so, I mean, they should be clear on that, right? That we're going from control elevation 8 feet out.
The growths are further into the center. And as the water builds back, then that lane of growth gets narrowed.
yes,
So that they need to get it to Logan's point by a boat.
Yeah.
Not by trying to shoot it further, right?
but.
Too far to go.
But what happened, so here's shore, right? So they sprayed all here. So there's nothing here, and then all the littorals are here.
Right.
Well, when this grows, they're gonna leave it and they're gonna have to spray here. So why the delay of not spraying this
Correct.
now?
It needs to be knocked.
That needs to be down, and that I have not seen.
Okay.
See what you're
Oh.
Yeah. What she's saying is you have to calibrate the 8 feet to control elevation at different stages throughout the year.
I understand that. And I think we'll have to evaluate some of these areas that you're talking about and establish maybe a written communication with them, so we make sure
It
that
is.
water level.
But this is my frustration because,
As a complaint, more or less, to, directly to them. So,
okay.
Yeah,
because-
that's a violation of the,
Yeah, I don't want to charge for
No.
going back there, and because I think that's what, right, that was around 30,000 to go back and remove something, did we talk about that? I think you mentioned that they were willing to fix it, but it's gonna be a cost, and it's like,
That's like when they spray it and it dies, we're not gonna pay to have it
Yeah.
harvested.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
let it get.
Okay, I just wanna make
I
sure.
think it'd be
like-
really valuable to, do a check on one of these lakes that's really prominent, like you're talking about. And then do a site visit with the vendor, and I can coordinate
Well,
that.
we know the ones that you mentioned at the last meeting, we'll follow back up and we'll make sure that the vendor goes by vote per contract and sprays it accordingly.
But it's just not the vendor, like, I saw 2 ponds with issue, and I reported 2 ponds. Not my job to go out there and check it, have we going out there and check it to see that the issue that happened on 84,
It's not.
it's all around 80 ponds.
Okay.
That's my
I
question,
think-
1, and 2 is, now that we know there was an issue, usually the time that they would be taking a break, they're not gonna be taking a break, they have to go back there and kill the area that they should have been killed in the first place, does that make sense?
Mhm.
Hammer that we have, your point, is when they've done it improperly, make them harvest. Don't just spray it,
It's horrible,
harvest it at no cost to the district, because that's what we have done in Pelican, and they do it. And so if they screwed it up, they gotta fix it.
and I think we're getting to a point where, like, if we see, so there's the golf course and the one that you called out. We cite it as an issue, it's a ticket. They have to resolve that ticket. Someone from staff, they need to go and check it, sign it off, that it's been complete. That way there's, there's a full loop.
Close the loop.
okay.
It was 84 and 85.
No, it was 84, I have to look at the other one, but it was definitely 84.
And what's the,
Bristol Park,
and then the golf course, and there's,
I think, it was-
They've
they've done this, okay.
oh, so they went back, yeah, okay.
Golf course.
And we actually I did a physical visit to Lake 116. And was it 118, the adjacent one on hole 17,
16's on
16 and 24, like
16, 24.
Yeah. 124.
Look at you quoting phone numbers. I still haven't got them.
But I did physically walk those. I walked all the way down 17, and we did find that those head walls were now clear. So confirm that. I got some photos of that. So,
Mhm.
so we'll do the same thing with these others. Just make sure we get it done right.
You'll see it in the next monthly report.
Perfect, thank you. I don't have anything.
Anything else for the answer? All right, moving to utilities, we've got Bill and Austin here.
But didn't give it Parks and Rec.
That's on
That's part
Public
of
Works.
Public Works.
Don't put it in the book.
Public Works / Parks and Rec. You have a question?
Yeah. Well, I'm going through the book in the sequence in which it's presented, but anyway. The boardwalk repairs at Pelican Reserve, I think they're all done. I mean, this is just gonna, shouldn't be open.
You know, if the,
I can't tell you that. I don't know for sure.
Okay,
we'll follow back up with you tomorrow.
all right, thanks.
Good with that, Andrew?
Yes.
Okay.
Write it down.
Utility.
You're up.
So are there any
Any
questions
questions?
on the item?
Where are we at on our
Pilot.
pilot? Thank you.
We had a follow-up call with, Christie. Christie.
Yes.
Christie. Yes, with Arcadis, they have the front end documents up for the bid. We were going back and forth. There is most likely gonna be a change order to their contract because the original scope did not include the boxes, which we have since included that we realized that we need to replace the boxes as part of this pilot project. And so part of the change order would be vetting through the boxes and the different options and standards and specs and, we're working on that. Leslie, was trying to get, but I know the meter staff were doing like half day AMI, we're fixing stuff and then half day of the pictures of the pilot locations. We're trying to wrap those up here in the next week or two. Of course, we're losing one of our meter readers, so try to get that done before she leaves. And explain to her that it was our intent to go out on this pilot, July. And she said it's gonna be close, but they feel like they may still be able to meet that deadline.
We're on the 3 communities where we're doing the 100. What are the 3 communities?
Let me see, there's, says we're relocating or redoing, replacing meters in Devonshire Lakes, Waterford Village, Gateway Greens, and Stony Brook.
Which, well, I thought we were just doing,
75 at each.
so we're just doing 3 at 100 each.
I think we're doing 4 at 75.
Well, the reason I was with Bill yesterday on that, mess up at their Mahogany and looking at that and options of how to reset those meters before they get there. And, that mess yesterday with the oak tree was a wake up call. Going around and moving this thing, our deal, Tony, maybe we have to bring this closer to the street. That might be the only way we can install these.
Well, and part of that consideration is the traffic rated versus non-traffic rated and prices. And so we're looking at, I mean,
What I was leading to the question is, who have we got that's gonna go out to each one of these 300 locations and site where the new meters are going so that we, and then I'm assuming we're gonna dig them up, put them in, so that when the pilot companies come in, they just install only.
Right now-
They've all been reconnected, or is there been a change on that?
no, right now we're in data collection of the locations and
Okay.
the existing
Somebody's
conditions.
doing that.
Yes, and then we'll put together the list of ones that we know have issues, albeit close to the roadway, too close to the other box, root intrusion, landscaping issues. We'll note each of those and then we'll go from there. Anything else
Are
for
there any other questions?
utilities?
And then I had some items that I did not get a chance to put on here, but probably worth going over.
Speak up loud.
Yep, guys, speak up.
So first of all, as Chelsea mentioned, we're gonna be having that irrigation shutdown on the 20th. That tied irrigation lines for the roundabout into the existing system. Also, the boil water notice for Gateway Greens resulting from the repair work we done on the 10th has been cleared. It's been lifted and all the rescission notices have been sent out.
That notice was gone out.
Yes, this morning.
I think that's all I had.
Okay. Anything else?
Oh, well, since Austin is here, I know we mentioned the last time, but thank you for getting us that grant. You weren't here, but just one more time, thank you, I appreciate it.
So just one last thing before we jump into the next item. We haven't really talked about grants in general with the board. I just kind of wanted to get your sense of direction on that. If you would like for staff to just pursue them. Or if you would like for us to come and ask for permission before we pursue them and just apply.
You get it, go.
for it.
I wanted to.
That-
Go for it.
That grant we went for over at Gateway Greens that we qualified for, but didn't get it because they ran out of money. That one, to me, is a natural for us because we're a lot bigger entity here. That we would be able to qualify on, basically energy savings and water savings and all that. That was the one through South Florida. And the 8 or 9 companies that are, communities that got it, were getting $1 million and upward. That's a lot of money.
So I asked.
That should be a
because
good one to go to. And Mainscape knew everything about how to do it.
there is a lot of post-disaster funding coming out. The county has a whole task force, resiliently. Part of one of their subcommittees is infrastructure. And I was speaking with Bonita Springs Utilities, one of their staff members today, and he said that there's a lot of money out there and I've reached out to,
Be in the right spot at the right time.
yes, so I just want to be clear from the board. Okay.
Go for
We will-
it.
Free money is good.
Unless it's got requirements of such as matching.
Yes, of course, of course.
And I guess the question is, Chelsea, some of those grant applications, do they require evidence that you're authorized to apply for them, say like a resolution by the governing body, and would you want a blanket resolution?
Potentially, I've seen some of those in the past, depending on the
Yes.
funding source, if it's state or federal, but if that's the case, of course, we'll come back with a resolution.
Yeah, I think, South Florida, you mentioned, I think they have some resiliency grants and funding programs also.
There's
The contact by you.
If we have, the window in South Florida that we were talking about, we got our information from here, records to be able to do it. So you've got all the information to be able to do it easy.
I emailed Danny Nelson because he heads up a lot of the grants from with Tetra Tech just to see if he had any knowledge. And because Tetra Tech was the state's contractor for infrastructure post EN, so I figured he had intimate knowledge. He let me know of some opportunities, but then we're also pursuing through Lee County. They got a big pot of money, so we will jump on those. Okay, for the next one. So this one, Rod Senior kind of touched on this one earlier. It's a $5,000 retainer for Dutch Pasadena via Louis D'Agostino. I think I looked through their names. And this would be to review the interlocal agreements and that we have with the county with regards to that specific clause. There'd be a couple week turnaround with hopefully a presentation from him and see if the board would entertain.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye. We will make that happen. Next item two,
Yes, don't know if the board has any questions. You want me to go down the list? We've been working with Chelsea.
you skipped a.
We skipped one.
We just need authorization for Mr.
Oh, let me go back to that. I'm sorry. Yeah, we've been talking with, emailing with the various parties of mediation and the Port Line lawsuit. And finally, everybody's agreed to have a mediation session. It's like herding cats sometimes to get the dates and times and the mediator. And right now, we were hoping for the end of June, but one party said they're not available, so it looks like it'd be in early July. We're hoping for no later than the middle of July. And we would request that the board authorize Mr. Tinkle to be the district's designated representative. It would be Chelsea, and Mr. Tinkle, anybody else that we believe would be appropriate for the mediation. And he would have the authority to enter into a settlement agreement that is subject to board approval and action at a publicly noticed meeting. With any governmental entity in litigation, all settlement agreements like this would have to come back to the board.
I so moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Rod.
Now, I'm sorry to jump ahead, I apologize. I don't know if the board has any questions. There've been a number of items working with Chelsea and Laura on and the subcommittees with regards to that number of items. I've received some other emails, follow-ups from Charles Mann and Denise. I think we're about ready to start wrapping up the straggler list based upon those emails. The capital improvement plan bond financing, that's basically on hold until we get something else going on. Hotwire damage claim, we're going to file the county court action. Since it's $18,000, and we're in the process of drafting that now. We'll coordinate that with Chelsea.
Thank you.
The various parcels. Local agreement with the school district, that's finalized and on the way to them. I don't know how long it will take for them to finally bless it and then sign it, and get that all squared away. The archive documents, still working with that. With few bid protests, as you all know, we wrapped that all up. Finalizing review of the updated, we just got new documents last week on Daniel's Park Apartments. And Stony Brook Road, I don't know if the chairman or Chelsea wants to talk. We had a really good meeting yesterday with the representatives of the Stony Brook Association. And we discussed how we're going to approach this. And I think it was mentioned before by Bobby or by Chelsea, waiting for their indication from their board how to proceed.
Yes, I think their meeting is on Monday, right? They may not have a decision on Monday, but they're definitely gonna have the first conversation on Monday. They may have a decision on Monday for us.
Are you planning to attend?
I can, no,
It was a good meeting yesterday. It was well worth it. Everybody sitting around the table, sort of dispelling some.
would you be able to attend? Cause you live there, I already attended the last one, I think it'll be beneficial since you're a resident.
I'm
Okay, sorry.
but I'm saying, because you had been there previously. We can.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Bob, to yours about the Pelican Reserve golf cart paths, I pulled the documents for that to do a memo about the district owning those cart paths around conservation.
Conservation area 6, I was gonna bring that up.
Yes, sir.
Do you have an answer yet?
The answer is the district owns that, and I'm gonna do a memo that attaches the supporting documents. It was in requisition number 1 way to begin.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
The need now.
And again, working with the subcommittees involved on the sunshine law and had other discussions about the organizational structure, depending upon what feedback and the board decide to do in the future.
Informationally, so the other members, they will be. A landscape review, a silent landscape review tomorrow morning. At 8 a.m. Survey. They can use the right words. They're all gonna run around together, but not talking. They have individual sheets in which they're gonna make notations of things that think they need to be done. At the end of that effort, and I'm gonna be there to make sure nobody talks. I'll have a little squirt gun. They say, talk, I'll shoot them. And they're gonna have a meeting.
The Nerf gun.
We need editing of it.
At the end of the meeting, they will have,
At the end of the
end of the survey, then a meeting will commence. Regularly noticed and orchestrated and memoed and all that agenda meeting where the individuals can then make their input. And make decisions going forward, make it legal. So if this worked, then this is a significant meeting, Mark, because if the end result of it, that the chairman of this particular group, landscape, says, yes, I can function effectively and efficiently, then my recommendation and his recommendation to PPAC is there's no reason to make any change going forward. If they cannot function effectively and efficiently, then PPAC may well decide in the future to move these organizations over to the district. That's a whole other, over to the community association. That's a whole other parcel that needs to be. Because we have an answer from Tony as to the status of the groups and what we need to comply with. The community association, have an answer from Adamczyk. And they're not aligned 100%. So we have to move forward one way or another. Tony, you also need us, we're looking for the language for the wheelchairs and the American with Disabilities signs. We've not posted.
Yeah, I'll go with Laura and Chelsea on that so we can get the language for that.
Yeah, and is that,
I thought Doug Zanter had already ordered those signs and it was based on the language that.
I don't think he's given us the language yet, but if he has, I hope you're right.
I was under the impression Doug had already.
And maybe he's already ordered.
The
it.
sign.
I just
We're
need.
done.
Are they done?
Then
Yeah.
that's bad, Bob. There's a lot of discussion about bike lanes within Pelican. And are we of the opinion, have we said, I guess it's directed to you, Tony, that I know we're not gonna deal with the golf carts at all. Do we have any interest or comments if they designate certain lanes to be bike lanes, if it's conformance with Lee County? So
Yeah, some places do shared lanes, is what they'll do.
not shared, this is gonna be bike lanes all.
Designated bike lanes, you have to restripe, reconfigure MUTCD. I guess Chelsea may have some info.
Well, I have some, there's a proposal to have Tetra Tech do an evaluation of the roads and what they would need to move to put the bike lanes in and what their recommendations are gonna be. It went in front of PPAC, it was stripped down a little bit, and at Danny's recommendation from Tetra Tech to give them some more latitude and be able to have them dig in a little bit deeper, and it's gonna be going in front of the Safety and Security Subcommittee for their review, and then back to PPAC, and then there'll be a PO issue. That should answer those, it's about signage and width and youth.
So,
and
Bob,
all
The
of
reason
that.
for that had to do with the cost, like,
Well, it's because it included bidding and all of that stuff.
well,
So
and
this
it also
is-
included, which was not available, but it wasn't presented to PPAC. It also included Cypress Grove and Prado Drive, which heretofore do not have those painted lanes.
Correct.
And so that's part of what they missed. What they heard was $42,000 to re-put in bike lanes of what we had 5 years ago and took out. So is
But
it-
it was, it seemed like, didn't we went through this whole conversation about
This.
3 or 4 years ago?
I think it was.
Oh, yeah, that was when Bill Guy was here.
Yeah, it was golf carts and bikes.
But Bill did not want it to be a bikes only. He wanted golf carts in.
Well, I mean, regardless of what Bill wanted, we
But the
spent,
board-
like months and months going back and forth over whether it's multi-use, golf cart only, bikes.
Correct.
So I think the
And
minority.
the end result of that effort was we, the board, rejected the feedback proposal. And then the already stenciled chevrons were all blacked out.
Right.
And now we're trying to reverse that and go forward. But I just wanted to make sure that we're all.
Hey, you're a circus, you're monkeys, so.
They're doing 2% for that UTC and all of that. That's all part of it.
That was well said. I like it.
Respectfully, sorry.
I was not aware of all of the activity going on.
Yeah, well, there's quite a bit. That's what it's in the news.
So dovetailing on what Bob was saying, there has been extensive discussions with PPAC with regards to the subcommittees of PPAC and how they're functioning and operating. And if they're restricted here at the district due to sunshine laws, et cetera. And what if, similar to what Stony Brook did with the Stony Brook Advisory Committee, if they shifted those subcommittees over to the community association? How would that operate? How would that function? And so the community association has been doing some homework and coming up with the different options of what they would perceive. But all of this boils back down to the O&M agreement that the district has with the community association and updating that O&M agreement. And truly, the next step to do that is PPAC and this board needs to make a determination on what, if anything, they want to do with those subcommittees or leave it status quo.
Well, and I would give Stony Brook a little bit of an opportunity to see how well, Joe, I mean, maybe at some point, I'm sure if Pelican would like to reach out and see.
Well, they have,
Yeah, I
Don't, you gotta talk back and forth.
I
Okay.
gave them the contact information.
Because that's a good test
there's
case.
been a lot of conversation, but that's the bigger picture, if you will. The smaller, the micro picture is for PPAC, and I don't want to speak for them, but I believe that the issue comes down to, can our subcommittees function effectively and efficiently? And still conform to such. And if they can do that, then there's probably no reason to change. And a lot of this will come down to tomorrow's test case. Hans has already adjudicated that they're okay and they can live with the system. Safety and security is still too new and not even totally formed. Landscape is the linchpin right now. Just
Yeah.
information.
And they're having a very good meeting. We had the chairs of the subcommittee and also KW representative was there and well as somebody.
We've had people from the PDCA board, from PKW, 3 subcommittee chairmen meeting with Tony multiple occasions to try and weed through the minefield, so to speak, that we're all in conformance and conforming to the law. And I appreciate all the effort you put into that. So that's all I've got for Tony. So I still have other.
I have one question. Tony, the Pelican Preserve District Infrastructure Easement Ownership Identification, you crossed out 6/30/23. I thought this was done.
It's done for what we have a variation on that theme and wasn't sure what date to put in there. Passerella and Associates has done a good job with their overlay. And I just need to look at that and tell them what else they may need or what other documents we need to get the necessary license. So
As we work through, like we did with the villa, Tony is working with myself
Okay.
on some of these other items.
Well, it's the first crossout date was 8/30/22.
I
Do you
know.
have it that far back?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things we're working on, and I really appreciate Passerella's work, is having to make it inexpensive to record the necessary easements to get those aerial graphics in grayscale, but sufficient detail with typical notes to show the width and location, extent of the buffer easements.
So what is your estimate?
With Will, I'll get with Will and see what he is on.
We have about 7 different ones that we need to meet with. We've met with the villa, we've met
Yeah.
with the community association. I think now that we know about conservation area number 6, Sienna may be next. So this will kind of be ongoing until we wrap up all of these easement documents.
Yeah, we have the template for the easement document now, and it's just a matter of plugging in as necessary, the recording information.
Do we have a date?
And Avila's easement agreement is with their attorney.
Okay.
And once they,
Oh, it is still there. Okay, that's what I was saying. That's where.
once he opines, which they're all anticipating that he's gonna say yes, then it will be an agenda item on their next meeting and they should pass it.
Very good.
Yeah, the bulk right now, Carol, is with community association.
Yes.
Yes.
They've got a number of parcels. I don't expect major problems with this. I really don't. We'll see.
And the only question is if the board wants to ultimately, and this becomes a policy decision, paying easements or license agreements with the golf course. If it's an easement, then that might be the more proper negotiation.
And the carrot and the stick is, if they grant us the easement, it doesn't cost them a nickel. If they refuse the easement, then they gotta start maintaining the areas. It's a no brainer, really. But we gotta do it the proper way.
Any other questions for Tony? I just have one more. No. So given that, I'm going back in Stony Brook, so given that their meeting is on Monday, does May attend? the frequently asked questions, I guess if, I know, Margaret had some concerns. If we could get that to Tony. Those, have you worked on it, or is it gone, or is it not?
I talked to, I'll get up there.
Okay. Cause I would like to have that document ready prior to Monday, so Doug can take a step on Monday if needed, or because I know it's.
It's not ready for that. There's a lot of changes that need.
There's a couple of things that Tony and Darren need to communicate on and get back and forth. It's one of those things that I think it's gonna be a little bit back and forth before that's done. But we definitely do want to, several things accomplished on Monday night. I'd love to be able to tell you that, yeah, something will get approved for sure, but there'll be a substantial discussion. And going forward in the future, you had mentioned about coming to that meeting. That's probably not the right meeting right now, but we're
Well,
gonna.
I won't come, but if
I
Doug
know.
wants to go, he
Oh,
can.
well, he's entitled to go.
Exactly.
We don't have,
That's why. I
we don't have his picture on the wall like we used to do. That's the show. We wouldn't let him in, you know. Back in the day.
So
But that's you had to be here a long time to know that joke.
Lorraine told me that, so I got it. But no, I just don't want any delay, but I don't know.
No,
how, but
and
that's-
neither do I. Technically, it doesn't have to be done Monday.
No.
We have until the final budget for that to
Absolutely.
take place, so there's,
And our goal is
There's not a
is
rush.
to beat that. It really is. But I do want to say that I do intend to ask you to come to one of our town hall meetings, which will be more solely focused on those issues. And I think you can be very helpful with that.
Yeah, and again, I don't want it to put the document out there. If there's a question mark, they can be clarified, not saying that Margaret's version is gonna be right. Tony will.
And it isn't just me.
But
Other
but
board
you're the
members.
one in charge of getting everybody and
Yeah.
writing everything out.
Yeah.
That's why I say
Yes.
Margaret, because everybody's giving it to her, so I don't have 10,000 emails. But
Certainly, you know.
I'm open and waiting, so I just want them to know we're waiting on that to go to Tony, and if Tony's gonna review and say, yes, those suggestions.
But we have to you guys to work together.
Yeah.
And come to a conclusion, the faster we can do.
I made a note to contact Darren on Tuesday to find out.
But it's gonna be important too. So whatever the revision is, from the document that was sent to whatever the revision is, I think it'd be important for us to see that revision, so we understand if there's something we need to communicate differently. Or
Mhm.
maybe we're still not 100% connected on something. It's gonna be really important, because when we come out of this, we need to be lock in step with the district's position and Stony Brook's position, so that we can partner.
Give the residents.
Moving forward. And if there's.
Yeah,
we
no
need to
one's
have some
forcing
discussion on
anybody to
items,
do
and
anything.
Let's have hard discussions if we need to, but we need to really come together. and
In
be
fact,
united.
Doug, I would appreciate if you came Monday night, just simply to hear what some of the residents' concerns are, and you get a feel for where we're coming from and what's going on, and maybe could possibly even convince some what's needed to be done. And Bob, I'll reach out to you. Anybody at P-PAC who wants to have a conversation sometime, I'll be more than happy.
I have
Just sit
given
down.
their name and number to numerous people,
That's it.
Okay.
so they're aware of it.
All right, very
Joe,
good.
I don't know
Yeah.
if I want to bring this up. Will the board discuss also that track B14 on the west side of Gateway
Yes.
Boulevard? There's a huge buffer track on the west side.
One
of
skinny
Gateway
thing
Boulevard.
with one little.
Do you,
fat
do you
bulbous
want,
in it.
you want you to say, or you wanna wait? It's up to you, because nobody knows what we're talking about
All right,
besides.
this is a piece of property we would like to unload onto Gateway. We don't want it.
At least he said it exactly what he meant.
Yeah, the piece, instead of between the fence and the. sidewalk.
Actually, I'm not
Yes.
even convinced it is between the fence and the sidewalk. The sidewalk is no doubt is.
It definitely starts at the fence.
I think it goes beyond the fence. I'm not sure. That's why we did talk about the possibility of a survey, simply because it's not marked where it
Are
begins.
you
and where it
thinking that the
does.
fence is erroneously placed?
We talked about this once on the phone, Ed, and I know that Tony gave me some maps and whatnot, and
I got something from Colamontes too.
And there is a
That's
point,
the Alta survey that was performed
yeah.
when the district conveyed that segment of Gateway Boulevard
Yeah.
to Lee County.
The
And that's why
problem,
I gave Joe the full size.
And we're saying that document, or the LIPA document, that's not accurate.
Well, the.
listen,
the
Lipa
survey-
had some of our roads still owned by US Homes,
No, the survey
so think
reflects
about it.
the road right of way and the improvements in the road right of
Yeah.
way.
There is a segment on the west side of the road that's a strip, like you would find it, that goes down through there. Just where it is this way is the question.
Take a right up, approach Stony Brook, that last bend to the right. Take note of how close you come to that berm and that fence that we put up on top of the berm. And that berm was installed by Lennar. You would think they would know where the right of way is.
Well, considering that the right of way is the same all the way through there.
That's true, but it seems to be on the maps. The question is the road truly located where it is in the right?
Well, I think
I just don't think that would be that difficult of a job, the whole Montez, to go out and do.
Then once again, we have the Alta survey that was performed
Mhm.
of the Gateway Boulevard Road right of way.
Well, and I guess the question is
We
there
have
any,
to have monuments.
is there any legitimate discrepancy to that? If we say no, then we say no, but
I don't believe so. Again,
Did Dan do it?
look, Joe,
The issue is, do they monument?
No, I put it in a car so I won't forget it.
I gave Joe a 24 by 36.
Yeah.
But I mean, did they leave monuments when they did that?
I don't know if they created pins, found pins, or located.
I didn't see them. I looked around, I
It's
didn't
not
see.
critical. If we can find a monument that establishes that west side,
100%.
that helps a lot.
100%.
So the,
Joe, share those surveys with Ed.
the point, I think the point of this is that it's a desire of the Stony Brook Master Association to convey certain parcels to the district. And that the Stony Brook is going to make the request of the board. Tony and I can work together on what it is our expectations would be for said conveyance, what we would need, so if it's a survey or
We need an
legal
accurate map.
sketch of description, what those items are, and so. Joe, I don't know if it's officially here or if it'll be in writing, we'll make the request from, it sounds like you guys are discussing it Monday.
Actually, we will be discussing on Monday. I want to make sure that we're in agreement and that there is a formal board vote, because I alone don't have the right to do that. And at that point in time, that should be something we can handle on Monday. The other issues,
So
I'm
we're
not
talking
sure.
about the north end on the west side where it hits up to the wetland.
Yep.
South all the way to where we hit the
Yeah.
PL. Okay.
Yeah,
So-
that's the total length of the run, but it's the bend up at that end where it's,
With that
in depth.
request, the board could decide, we could get a quote for a survey and the board could choose to
I don't
have that
I don't have any problem.
or
with that
make the
one.
request of Stony Brook to have it surveyed, either or.
Why that piece of was left is beyond me anyway. So it's crazy.
Joe,
stuff.
are you gonna,
Like an
are you
apple
gonna
farm.
ask for the other side too? That green space?
well,
Oh, there is,
That's county right away.
no,
you mean that we're,
between the villas and the area that we cleaned up by the service road on the other side. Are you also
villas or villages?
villages?
Yeah, okay. No, I don't think
You
that's
don't
an
want to
issue.
switch that? That's-
No,
you're gonna
there's no
keep
need
that
to.
you-
We're
okay,
more concerned on
on the other
that.
side, all right,
Yeah.
just to make sure, okay,
Okay,
because I'm like,
I think that,
just tell me all now.
that will set the
That's all,
point
just tell me
from
all
which
now.
you can mark. Get a couple monuments out there, then everything is, falls in-
Just get a couple
in
monuments
place.
set.
So do we put it, do you want direction from the board to go ahead and do a survey, or you?
I'd rather wait until Monday if that he gets.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
okay, and then.
Yeah.
That's true.
I agree.
Okay.
Thank you.
And bury that.
And while I'm here, I do want to thank those of you that were there yesterday. We do appreciate your time and having the opportunity to talk to you.
I almost gave Margaret a heart attack. I'm like, Margaret, 14, she's like, what? Just show up. All right.
Anything else for?
Tony, I don't have. anything.
All right, so we have the agenda management pulled up in front of you. I will remind you, we do have a president council meeting in Pelican at the end of this month.
2 weeks from today.
You'll see the items listed here. Is there anything else that you guys see that, some of these items are, I got feedback from Avila, so we know that'll be pushed out. Some of these items are, will move around a little bit, but.
This one you'll see for every week, every meeting for a while.
Yeah. So any.
Can, can we start talking about reducing the budget?
That's what this is right here, this budget reduction discussions.
It'll be on every agenda until August.
Okay.
Give you all the.
It'll be on every agenda until the budget's adopted.
last year we take pieces, we do like certain.
We can, yeah, we tackle that a chunk at a time.
Yeah, it's better.
Would you like take that same approach? I think we did like general fund.
Into the final,
Yeah.
we take little portions like here's capital
Yeah.
or Parks and Rec, or if it's blah, blah, blah.
Well, since I will not be here for 2 meetings in August, when you guys are gonna be finalizing this, and you're gonna need 3 votes.
We'll
I-
blame you, Carol.
Okay. Oh, yeah, Carol had been here, yeah.
Carol did that.
But I just personally would like to now start, now that we have a document to start.
Yep.
I want to start personally going through it and saying, could we look at this? Could we look at that? Could we?
Well, why-
Take
why-
this back that, first chart, that'll help. But then we have the other items like several of you threw up, Doug mentioned a while ago, that nice things, but they could go to the back burner.
But what you could do is you could have your list, you won't be here, but you can send it to Chelsea, Chelsea will be.
No, send it to me.
Or to Laura.
Budget.
Yeah, and then Laura will either, forward it to us, or we won't be replying, or just print it at the meeting and we'll take in consideration.
No, I was gonna do this in July.
Oh,
No,
okay,
but
prior
it's-
to you can leave it, you're gonna, okay.
I
Oh,
was
okay. So you
going to
want
have
to cancel?
basically all my comments into you and
Okay.
everything
Okay.
by the end of
No problem.
July, and then you all just.
And whatever you guys have, if there's certain things that you'd like to discuss, if you could get them to me before the meeting so that I can have things prepared, I think it'll make our discussions a little more productive than if you throw something at me, we'll search for the information.
We'll see how that goes.
I'm just requesting it.
Keeping us on our toes, we got you.
All right, go, you want to get started, so.
Make me cry.
Anything
know,
else,
exactly.
anything else on agenda management?
No, all right, supervisor's comment, I'll start with Bob.
I would like to propose that the board be paid for the 13th workshop at one of our 24 paid meetings.
Okay, so you think,
Well,
yeah,
that you had that, Tony mentioned, defer that today.
yeah, motion, second.
That's all right to stick.
We have a second, all in favor? Aye.
You're gonna get me twice.
Yeah, don't come crying to me later in like November when you don't get a check.
I still have to check that. If you don't think that's coming.
Anything else?
No, it's-
No, okay, Ed,
I have nothing.
Dutch,
Yep.
Carol.
Yes. I was having a conversation with Doug Zanter, who is the chairman of our ponds subcommittee, in PPAC. And he was, I was asking him how things were going with, they had done a study and they have now started to, cut back on aerators and have had, now that they've gotten some bills from doing that, they've been able to reduce a lot of their electric costs too. And so he was saying that he doesn't know, but he doesn't think that the district standards have been looked at for a period of time.
Pond standards.
Yes.
For areas, okay.
For aerators and that sort of thing. And that it would probably be a good thing if we reviewed it at some point. And because sometimes my eyes gloss over at things like that. And because we have a member of our board who used to be the chairman of the Ponds Committee, I was wondering maybe, Bob, if you would head something like that up.
Workshop type deal.
And look at what the technical requirements are. Because as we're doing these other ponds, and I thought Doug made a good point, as you're doing the other ponds, you may not, they're gonna be done to the standards that we have right now. It may be beneficial for us to do them to the new standards. Technology has changed.
You're absolutely correct. Because when we first did it, we were demanding they be no greater than 100 foot apart. We demanded complete turnover minimum
24 hours.
24 hours. There's a number of criteria that we now, with experience, have said that was costly. You're right. I'd be happy.
And I think.
He knows all that shit. I don't.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think the only requirement we had was at that time when it was a 24-hour, that we didn't have location or how far apart. We didn't add that to it. We didn't add it.
I mean, I think we still want a quality product.
Absolutely.
But I think the changes in technology, just say, let's just review it again, and maybe there are tweaks that we can make to it. that will save us some money.
So
Pelican electrical costs were running $80,000 a year.
Yeah.
So that was a ripe opportunity to look at.
So to be clear, you're asking Bob to review the Pelican pond standards or the Gateway?
No,
pond
the
standards?
gateway,
Okay.
the district. And
So here's the thing, I don't know if you have,
if you want to make a little work group.
Yeah.
With Bob in there and whoever else from your staff, that would be.
Because I don't think Gateway had any aeration standards.
so the only criteria we had is that if there was a need due to the outage, if the samples are going bad, we're going to install them. And one of the requirements, and I believe, that was the only requirement, was they would have a 24-hour turnaround. We didn't say locations, how far apart. But as of now, because we haven't had any issue with water quality, we really haven't not have implemented as much as we thought we would. So we have already way less requirements, because that was one of my concerns.
We did about that.
Yeah,
That's about all we did.
and I was like, we're gonna add all these aerators. I have 7 diffusers and an 83. I'll tell you how much that's gonna cost. Maintenance,
But-
electrical, so
But
we
the
didn't
permit
do that. Yeah.
criteria for new developments, of course, we're not really into that anymore, but the permit criteria, Kyle, has the standard, and
standards.
it needs to be revised. I agree.
I say, make it simple, have Bob just review our pond standards to see if there's any adaptations or considerations that we need to look at as a result of Pelican preserves.
Yeah, and I'll
Right.
contact with other guys that are doing it.
Now, who's doing this stuff recently and what have they run into?
In that same breath, you've all approved a solar pilot project, which we ordered the components, it's just a matter of staff getting some time to go out there and put that on. I think it's on the one across.
What's the customer?
across the way. It may be, I'm not
It is,
sure, I can
yes.
follow up with staff, but that is something to get some feedback on too, as.
It's right where
That
the
would be-
tree was that was taken down by the hurricane. I was like, I fell the other way. That's it, no,
Good.
nothing else. Yeah,
Adjourned.
all right. All right, there we go.